I don't have the brain.
Rock. What is happening? How you doing, folks? Ready, McKins? What is happening? It is another night of Resident Evil 5 with me and the homeboy, TheHooke. We did really, really well last week. I think we have about 2 more streams left in it. And we have to look at the flurry brick. We have about 2 more streams left in it. We'd made it into some big temple, and we were. Oh, look at that. He has me on his screen in grey. I don't even do that. I don't even do that. Let's just go, wow. See who does that one. See who does that one. But we were working through our puzzles, and the game froze on us again. I think it kind of, after the 3-hour mark, it kind of freezes. So I think that's a normal thing now at this point. Oh, look at him give me cheek back. Look at him give me cheek back. Who does he think he is? Some crack like Thon Yon boy. But hopefully we get more done in Resident Evil 5 tonight, and then we're going to move on to Resident Evil 6 afterwards. So I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. I know there's a lot of campaigns on Resi 6, but I'm interested to see what the story is with, what's like, how it's getting on. I'm noticing there's a bit of a delay in my camera as well, which I don't understand why. Going directly in. Oh well. Be grand. Ahoy, hoy. How's it going? Not too bad, Tomic. I don't even know you're not even in my chat. I can't hear you. You can't hear me. What's the crap? Lamosh, thank you very much. Level 17 Samurai. Welcome. Did you get that sorted earlier? Just covers my complete face.
Lord?
What's happening, lad? What's the story? What, the fan curve? Yeah, did you get it sorted?
About you, of course.
Did you? I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Still a prick. Evil, evil shite. Here, folks, in both chats, a bit of an update. So, I noticed this at the end of the last stream, but also Legolas did. So, whenever Leyoric comes to be right back, you can now vote in the Ealer chat. Something we're able to do through StreamerBot. So, you'll be able to see Leoric's voting game.
7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
If you're online, because it's a joint chat. So, the command is now joint for voting game 1 or game 2. And you'll see it on both as well. So, prop to Legolas as well for the idea. Much appreciated. Sean, with a 3-stream streak. Thank you.
Oh, actually, I have to actually check. Did I set that command up so it would work on both chats? Because I know it's on my side, it has to be done.
Now that I've said it out loud, you probably should.
It'll
have to be vote 1 and vote 2, won't it?
Yeah.
I think you did. You says to me, you were like, I'll sort that now or something like that. But I never followed up to see if you actually did. But I just assumed you did, you know. Ready up, you bollocks. I like it, Tom. Straight to the point. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Where was it again? What was it under?
It'll be your commands. So if you go into your command, your exclamation mark vote 1 or vote 2.
Yeah.
And then it's one of the wee options down bottom left. You can change. You have to scroll down in the wee menu that pops up. That's what it is.
Sources.
Maybe you can ignore bot accounts now. If you scroll down, I think it's there.
Yeah.
Sarah, what is the crack? Welcome on.
Sweet. I am.
Thank you for checking, McKins.
What is just toying with it? I might go back to it. Also, Sean, thank you very much for the follow as well. Much appreciated. Sorry, I missed it
nice
there.
One. Good man.
Thank you, folks, for signing the ledger. I realize it's appearing very, very low in the bottom of the screen. I can blame Hooke for that one.
Well, it wouldn't be like you to blame me for something. For fuck's sake.
I decided it was your fault, sir. I've decided.
Right, I have your chat up on the other side, or your stream. So that'll be handy. Something I didn't do last time as well. So I can keep on top of if you decide to just like jump into the game or something and I'm still chinwagging. Then I can see that you've jumped into the game.
I see what you're doing now, yeah. So what is the crack, folks? How are we getting on? We had loads of trucks today. I know most people probably won't understand what that means, but I'm all excited because there was trucks.
You've known him for how long and still surprised he's blaming you? I know, TheHooke. It's like the definition of insanity, isn't it? Expecting different.
Me blaming you doesn't. Results. I don't expect different results. It completely clears me of all blame because I blame you.
Oh, it must be therapeutic for you. You give me grief. Must be.
It is. Nuclear. What's the story? Already level 80 already.
In your back in the guild. Oh, I haven't checked that. I must do it. I'm going to do really. Final Fantasy. Was it called Revelance?
Revolution.
The 2D HD one that was announced today.
Oh no! Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
That looks like so good. It looks like Octopath Traveler in a sense.
It's very much that scheme, isn't it? Waffles thing.
Yeah. Much of fan of that when I seen that today.
But that's what I've been.
Go ahead.
That's what I was saying for a while, though. I thought I would love Final Fantasy 1d6 done in that style. Yeah. So you don't have to remake the game, but do it in that sort of art style, so it looks very modern and class.
I would love that too, yeah. Because I've been meaning to pick up the Pixel remaster, and I was on Ian's chat was it today? This morning? And we were talking about the Switch 2. I know the EU now has to get like a battery removable version. I was like, right, I'm waiting to that point then. Because if the battery can be removed, it's much easier to prepare and for everything else as well.
Yeah.
But then, like, the whole one of the main things that's been sticking out in my head about wanting to get a Switch 2 eventually is like the Pixel collection for Final Fantasy, so I can play 1d6.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, man.
would love to do that. But I seen that today. What do you think of the Ocarina of Time trailer?
I
Any
didn't even
thoughts?
I didn't even see it. I just seen a few clips on Nintendo stuff, but I haven't seen how. Are they remaking
Oh,
it or remastering it?
well, they just did a trailer. It looks like it's like a 3D. Like, well, no, sorry, the original was 3D. It's like a. I'm not sure what the style is.
The remake, right? Okay.
It is a remake. Brizzy, 22 months.
That,
22 months. Thank you very much for 22 months sub, you
that
legend.
Bearish looks unreal. I know that man is vibrating. He's buzzing, waiting for that Monster Hunter DLC. Wait till Switch to
Switch to
OLED.
OLED. It'll be coming event. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Although, I'm not too fussed on waiting on an OLED because I have the Steam Deck, like the LCD, the original 64 gig, which I upgraded the storage. But like that screen's fine for me.
But I'm worried
Like I
about
know OLED's
Waffles.
fantastic, but he is a problem.
No, but how's he going to buy more Steam Decks with the price shooting up?
That's if that's going to stop that guy.
Yes, they
He
built a
already has a
house out
big
of them.
12.
Yes, they built. Can you imagine the heat in that house as well? You just switch them all on at one time, and the fan at
That's
the
how he
top
heats
just
his house.
blows heat in for the class in the winter.
His house has a back burner, and it's like hooked up to all the vents above the Steam Deck.
Yep.
That's what it does. Yeah.
Debated about that, and I realized that my Switch has always played docked. Now, you love a good
Yeah.
docking,
That's a
don't you,
fair
Flim
point.
Flam?
That is a fair point, Flemish. I do, when I had the Switch One, it was always docked as well. Always. Every time I played it.
It runs
Like
better docked.
basically never played Portal. Ah, of course, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the Switch 2, it's not as much of an issue performance for dock versus handheld because of like it has DLSS, doesn't it? It has upscaling or FSR at least. So
I can't even spell FSR, so I don't know.
it's too
Oh,
cramped. Do you mean to hold, Flemish?
I was I was saying to you earlier on, I was trying to get concert tickets. There's a new band out called 1023 megabytes, but they don't have any gigs yet. I see that today and
I
I'm
was
laughing.
annoyed at this because it's actually good. Hmm.
Waffles Jr. preferred handheld. I suppose it depends on what you're doing. If you're just chilling on the sofa, I like it on the big
I
screen
do
though.
not have
Whenever
small hands. Excuse me. I have big hands. Believe it or not. And you'll
it's
see
fine.
that in person when you eventually meet me.
He does. He hugs with big hands.
Big hands and big feet. Like a flipper.
Step on little
There it
walls in
is.
front of a man, will leap over them. You want more decks? More decks I shall have. Well, this is true. This is true. But you're just giving Gabe money.
That's the thing, Waffle. Like, it doesn't matter. They can make them 1500 and up, and Waffles will still bet. OLED V2. You know, I'll take two.
Yep.
Witness me.
Witness
Ready?
me.
Welcome in.
There's already a mod in your chat.
He is. I made him a mod a while back. I
When did that happen?
think it was about a month ago.
Didn't
Ish.
tell, didn't tell me about it.
It was on the wee chat. I asked him offline, and he said, "I." He was like, "I suppose so." I was like, "Right, sweet." Leyoric is deals. Want me to ban him? Go for it. You have the power. Actually, he's head mod. He has like the wee hammer.
I do. I
So I
can
don't know
ban
if you can.
mods.
You can ban mods.
I can also. I'm an editor as well, so I can also stream on your channel.
You can.
As
You're
you.
essentially a co-owner of the
Yeah.
channel. Yeah. Yeah. Can you actually, coincidentally, so you can access my stream key, can't you?
I don't
Technically?
think so. I don't think so. I don't. If I had your stream key, I think I can do it, but you would have to give that to
Yeah.
me. But I don't think I don't think I have that much
Because I
power
know
in
you
Hogwarts.
can stream to the channel as an editor
Yeah,
and like manipulate the channel. So there must be a way you can view it. Or maybe you can stream to it without viewing the stream key or something. I don't know.
it would
But
have to be something we'd set up
bears, man.
separately. I don't know what scenario we'd ever need it for. I don't know why that's a thing.
Zero
I
cash.
no, I actually know what.
Mm,
Fuck, he just proved me wrong straight away. And then I was just about to say,
yeah.
"Oh, high scores, high stakes, they do too." I was like, "For fuck's sake!"
Happy Irish man, 23 months. Yeah, absolute legend. Nearly 2 years. Thank you very much.
Look,
On a
into your
totally
dial,
unrelated
York.
topic from the Banhammer. Leyoric looks wonderful today.
Oh, oh, oh. Thank you,
He's trying to
thank,
keep himself happy, you know.
thank you, Waffles. I appreciate it.
Hype train incoming, folks. Thank you very much. You're a fucking legend.
Proud to be bald, definitely.
You've been following for 1 year, 1 month, and 3 days, and I still haven't met you yet, Tomahawk. That's not good enough. Not good enough.
I was playing DVD with Tomahawk last night.
Where you at?
Uh, it's
Must be
weird.
nice.
It's
I'm
weird though
joking.
because it's great they play, but we're not playing
Uh,
over Discord. Tomahawk's streaming, and I'm just joining the game. but there's certain audio checks and stuff that you have to listen to, and that seems very much happening. There's certain audio checks you have to listen to for like the monsters and the checks when you're trying to fix stuff. But I keep hearing it in his stream, and I keep his stream on because I want to listen to him because I don't know how to play it yet. And it's
right, so it's throwing you off.
It's throwing me off, but it's still good crack. Still good crack.
No one wants to meet you. What? Who said that, really? I'll kick their ass. Legolas, thank you for the check-in as well.
I went to your house the other day and you didn't answer the door to me. Just took my Tato and ran away down the street laughing.
NI Creators Meetup Assemble. Yes.
What's this about monsters? No, it was me and Tomahawk were playing Dead by Daylight last night. Question was Stacy turn his stream volume up so they can come through my speakers or hers if it's Tomahawk's. No, that's how you played Ground Zero. You listened to Tomahawk when he was playing them and they streamed to ask him what to do next because you kept getting lost.
That was funny. I was watching Tomahawk and Flemish at the same time, and it was constantly Sarah and Flemish or Tomahawk's chat, and then like listening to Flemish and Sarah bickering about it, and I'm like, he's missed a jump in a Discord call.
I got stuck once. Don't make us go back and check them VODs because that's a lie. That's a lie.
It was more. You asked more than one question.
It was quite a few.
That's bullshit.
He just wanted to watch Tomahawk a piece. We all do. We should all just drive this house, sit out in his garden, put out garden furniture, and just watch him. Just watch him.
Just wanted to watch him in peace.
Candy's mustache and all, and just be all. That's a nice mustache.
Like Sarah does the manly move where she goes to the toilet for 40 minutes just to get peace in Flemish.
No, I'd say he'd follow you. He'd follow you. He's like a cat. He'd be pawing at the door.
He'd be like, no, he might lock himself in a cupboard or something.
He might choke it about a pineapple.
He's going to report us to Twitch for bullying, you know.
He is. But then again,
Flemish, we do love you, really. We do love you, really. It's affection.
I was in the Ian's chat earlier, and I'd said something, and the first thing Flemish said, they come on, and he responded, "Fuck me."
Brilliant.
Well, one was General Greenpay, and the other was where the fuck is this thing question. So that's more than one question. That's two.
Exactly.
That's like Raccoon City 2 and Loop Theory all over again. Sometimes I wonder.
The Flemish Tomahawk Ground Zero stream race will be epic. Oh,
that'd be good. Speed run.
That'd be good.
Nah, I tell him I have a lot of.
Shut the office door. Brilliant.
Does that stop him though? Sierra, does it actually stop him though? Like I know if I shut that door
up against the door.
You know, I'm not going to say your name, but he's all Sierra. Help me! Who's going to stir the arrabbiata?
Oh god, I love grief. I'm just laughing because this used to be me, Flemish. Everywhere I went, I used to get a ridiculous amount of grief, even when I wasn't there in people's chats. Now it's you. It's great.
But that's because we loved you. It's not. We weren't being mean-spirited. We're Irish.
Yeah.
Like we like Flemish. That's why we give him grief.
You big baby. Sometimes he does come in.
Comes on, stands in the corner and stares at you. Like Cleo's
doing. It turns out I knew the gameplay better than Tomahawk.
Did she? I got to tease. Tomahawk's finished it. I mean, Tomahawk's also friends with the real Brad Vickers.
Joe, I'm live. Emma.
Tell Emma said hi.
You're live.
Joe says hello.
Hello.
Hello. She says hello back, but she won't come on camera.
She won't, because then the illusion of her realness will disappear.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hooke is all. Doxing Mrs. Hooke.
That's right.
Asher, what's up? What's up, stinkers? That's the second time today I've been called stinky. I have showered. I smell delicious.
I also showered and shaved.
Ready said I smelled in the Ian's chat earlier.
Doxing Mrs. Hooke. Mrs. Hooke is called Emma. Just so you know. I will say it interchangeably. Just as I doxed LeOric a minute ago, even though it's on his bio, he's called Joe.
You know? Did you see it once in Flamash's stream where he doxed his own boss? And he's all, but you'll never find him. Oh. He's not on social media, and like 2 seconds later I sent him a picture of his boss. And he's all, well, that happened.
That's so Flemish.
2 Irish, 2 furious, and here it is.
2 Irish, 2 furious, that's funny.
Because does that make you Paul Walker? And because I'm bald, I'm Vin Diesel?
I'll take Paul Walker, like. I know he's dead, like, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't mind being Vin Diesel. I could walk about.
Just gorgeous, man.
Family. And petrol.
Lyric, what are you doing today? Why are you in the corner again? Why is all the lights off? I'm Riddick. I'm Riddick. Just hiding. No, you're not.
I am
Stop it.
Groot. I am Groot. I mean, he's on social media, so he's out there. He is. We found him. We found him in seconds.
Does LinkedIn count as a? I suppose it is a social media, even though it's a professional social media.
McKen's, you're right. He didn't say I smelled bad. He just said I smelled. And it could also mean that I smell things.
Oh, Belter.
One Red Diesel. The untaxable. The untaxable. That's the name we follow him. Vin Red Diesel, the untaxable.
Well, I hate LinkedIn as well, Sierra. It's a pile of balls. It really is. Shite. Like,
I don't
loads of
use
people
it.
just, oh, Jesus, I'm brilliant, basically.
I don't use LinkedIn. Well, I don't know. I don't have a reason to use LinkedIn, but like, I don't use it.
And you'll get recruiters, but no, I want to connect with you. Your skill set is perfect. But like, your fist for shite. Stop winding me up.
That's what I said to you when I was trying to get a hold of you the other day, and you just ignored me.
For God's sake. Now the cat out of the bag now. Fun fact, the Hook came up with a suggested contact of mine. It amuses me greatly. No way. See, you should add me. You're going to have to now.
Go on, message him, and
Yes.
just say your skill set. What was it you said?
Your skill set meets our exact criteria or something is what they always say.
I said. That's how you introduce yourself to him.
My
That's how you
LinkedIn,
meet
I haven't updated my LinkedIn in like 5 years. At least.
I'll think about
At
it.
least.
More than none, what's happening? Yeah, I'm awake for once, and I can see all the people I never see. More than none is a phenomenal streamer. If anybody's not following him, please do so.
Definitely.
Plays a lot of RPGs, met him through Kai and all. Lovely, lovely fellow.
So I got to getting rid of it. But I did get my current job through LinkedIn. The only reason I updated mine like 5 years ago is because at that stage I wasn't sure if I wanted something else or whatever.
Mhm.
So I updated it a while ago. It's probably about 4 or 5 years ago. But I haven't looked at it since. Use LinkedIn. It was just a lot of shit. People doing a lot of pointless shit to look. That's exactly it, really. It's just blagging, being like, oh, I'm brilliant.
See,
It's like
if
Instagram.
I went on LinkedIn to stand out, like, would I just do like a profile picture of me, like in a tank top eating some like potato, cheese, and onion? Like, would that make me unique
Would
then
actually
compared
do
to
well.
everyone else? I would do well.
Yeah, would.
I said,
The music stopped. I just realized. Must be the end of my playlist.
I have no music on mine because Resident Evil 5 is one of them games that when you click out of it, all the audio stops. It's handy.
Yeah, that's true. I realize you're not even on your chatting scene. You're on the.
I'm not, no, because you're not
games.
on my chatting scene, and I want to see you, Hook.
Well, that's not good enough. You're in my chatting scene. How dare you?
But I was grey. I was grey.
That's when you're muted.
Oh, you made me grey. And I'm only slightly grey, and you made me more grey. I didn't
Grow your
appreciate it.
hair out. And then we'll talk about Grace.
Do not make me grow my hair out. I'll do it. I'll do it. You've seen me do it before.
I've seen
Leon Kennedy will happen again. Will you
I should make my
Vevix?
LinkedIn picture.
When will you
Do
Vevix?
it. Do it.
They're dominants with eyes in
But
that picture.
you can't put would rather play games instead of work as a status update. That's true because no one's going to recruit you unless they're a gaming company. Maybe it'll work.
Don't say play games. Just say you like to solve problems. You're a people person.
Interactive problems.
You deal with conflict.
Virtual interactive problems. There you go. I enjoy a good narrative. That's another thing you could put.
You don't like residents who are evil. If you're going for like a landlord job.
Ah, for God's sake. Right. We'll jump on the game then.
Yes, I think so.
Right, then I give a controller on that big good start. I should have grabbed the drink.
What?
It only adds a bit fine.
But you can't do this to me. You know how much I sacrificed?
Thank you for the shout. I'm doing okay. Just too hot to sleep. Oh, that is the worst. You'd rather be cold at night, wouldn't you?
Conflict resolution more than none. Yes. If that wasn't, I've experience in inventory management and high pressure situations. TheHooke, that's perfect. That is spot on. You need professional profile photo.
Nailed it.
Always. I think, you know what? I don't understand why this can't be my professional photo. Like, it just represents everything about me, and I think it should be in like a office sort of setting. Because my actual one that's on my past looks nothing like me anymore. It looked like my eyebrows were chasing me. It looked like my eyebrows were chasing me receding hairline.
Leyoric Sunderland.
I know a
Brilliant.
person who put the experience as a guild leader in World of Warcraft. Oh no! It's like saying I'm a
No
professional
way.
moderator on a Discord, or I'm a
I know.
what's the other one? I'm a moderator on a Minecraft server or something. Which I know a
That's a bit
person
of a
who's put.
weird
I know a
flex, I'm
person
not
who's.
gonna
I
lie.
know a person who's put that in a CV before.
Seriously.
Yep. Oh, hold
Well,
on. Give me a
we
wee
both
second.
looked at many CVs, and like
My
you do get some weird ones, like
my
you do.
phone is going. Give me a wee second.
I know worries. Invite the game. I should keep his entertained while Leoric is pretending they have friends. I think Leoric should be Chris today. Good wee egg has earned it. I don't mind. He can be Chris if he wants. That's all right. Stop telling your dog to go away. It's a son. Oh, I can still hear you. People still hear you in my stream. Do you want me to mute? I'll mute you. I'll mute you. I think so. So we'll unmute him here.
Right
He
there, I'm
comes
back
back.
now. I'm back now.
Right, sweet. I was muted in Leoric's chat, Dean. Yeah.
Did you just mute yourself?
No. I muted. Well, I would have actually. I muted altogether.
Muted everything. Now I am.
My mute option is to mute me everywhere.
Now I assume that after about 2 hours, 3 hours, this is probably going to glitch again
Yeah, 100%.
because
It
it
seems to be a
seems to
trend
be
every week.
par for the course. You were saying that you thought it was like a memory bleed or something.
I think it is, you know. Here, Tomac was saying in chat that you should be Chris this week. So it's up to you.
No, I like looking at myself with boobs.
Right, I sent you an invite on Steam. Did you get it?
Yeah, I'm searching and connecting now. Oh, he
All right.
never said like wow or anything. He said additional info, but just vaguely had it about organizing and supporting. Ah, right, okay, I get you. Senior perfect.
He successfully walked 1.5 hours on that pad and didn't fall. An hour and a half? Jesus, fair play to you.
Happy
That's amazing.
days. That's better than Hooke. You are the better sibling, clearly.
Well, I was at the gym today, like, but
Where?
no.
Where? Oh, did you actually go to the gym at was end of your road? Did you never went there whenever I
did.
drove half an hour to get there?
The difference is I went at around 8 a.m. this morning. So, Ruthie. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. Master Chief. Here. How have we got this far into the stream and I haven't talked about Halo Campaign Evolved?
I
That
don't
ain't
know.
right. That ain't
I
right.
don't know.
I am actually, like, I went from being on it to actually really excited. It looks excellent.
It's okay. It works in the bakery. It's
That's all
called
I'm
gym. I
saying.
went to gym and got 3 turnovers and didn't share them with my wife.
Jim and AM thinks he's different. Class built different.
Do you know how somebody goes to the gym? They'll fucking tell you.
He says that last week too. Dickhead.
Are we?
Hooke went to the gym, which means he works. The bakery is called Gym. Yes.
This has put us
Yes.
back to the start.
Oh, the start of this chapter.
No, just the puzzles. Remember the lasers?
No, that's all right. That's all right. Sure, wasn't that in depth anyway. We'd only done like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I asked the GPT.
They are.
Without
Where's my
spoilers,
cup?
where we're at, by the way.
Oh, Ruthie, wait till you see. Look at that for a cup.
Oh, look at
for a
that.
cup. Look at that.
Also, Ruthie,
Eh?
welcome. I was too busy showing you my cup to say hello. Hope you're well.
AOC, best game on PS5 Pro.
Yep.
Right.
I'm not even. I'm happy about that, Tomac. But I do find it funny that they chose to show captured on PS5 Pro at the bottom of the footage. That was a choice. Although
Right.
here, Gears E-Day was originally announced for all platforms, is now console exclusive. Not even coming to PC.
I'm looking for the version of Gears that shoots a wee bit of water and cleans your bum. Gears B-Day.
For fuck's sake.
Right, I think we need to break the frickin' laser.
Lasers.
Right,
Right,
I am
last time
going
I
to
just stood in
swing.
the corner and looked handsome.
Yeah.
So,
Right, so we
or I'll
break
just walk
that, and
behind
then
you,
it was
you know.
this one over here, wasn't it? Come on the PC. It
Nothing.
does. Although, what did they show that was a console exclusive last time?
No, they said Gears and Clockwork, whatever, is console exclusive.
Console exclusive, and I don't think it's just like
It's
Xbox. I
coming to
think it's
PC, but it's only on Xbox. As in the console.
killed myself. I went the wrong way with it.
Silly belly.
No,
Right,
not
right.
completely
Console
ex-
exclusive, not completely exclusive. Right, okay. Get you.
You're not
Well,
completely
point
exclusive
still
from
stands
them.
is it was originally announced for PS5 as well, and they've walked that back. Well, Asha
Yeah.
has walked that back. That's brave. Xbox podcast showed a picture of Gears with all the PlayStation logos on it, despite it being pulled. That was silly because they've had to take the episode down, haven't they? From what I read as well.
Undoing
For that
everything
reason.
they had done. Now the thing is, though, I really like Phil Spencer. I was a big
Same.
Phil Spencer fan. Like he did so much good, and I think it was all corporate bullshit that kind of came out at the end with him.
Aye, like let's be to be honest here. Like Asha and the Phil before her, they have some kind of input, but the buck stops upstream from them. Like
Yeah.
it's Microsoft.
Like
Like
Phil came,
they are essentially a puppet. So let's not get too carried away. Like
and Phil came
it's a
in, and he
PR
was like,
stunt to replace Phil with Asha and then make the changes. Sorry, go ahead.
no, it's the wrong way. You know what? Fuck it, no, that'll do. Phil came in, and he was like, I want backwards compatibility, and he made it happen. He's all I want you to do it through software. Oh, it's impossible.
Fantastic
Like-
choice too.
It was brilliant. Don't laser each other again, please. I'll try not to, but it's difficult because I'm an
I'm
idiot.
just support here. He's figuring it out.
I need you to hide somewhere, Hook.
Maybe I'll hide behind this one over here. Should be
You
good.
ready?
Yeah, go for it.
There we go.
There we
Got
go.
it.
Nice.
Get on top of the steps.
steps.
What, like the band?
Would have been a good idea.
You're lazy. Videos in Belfast and a bunch of fucking bellheads, not the riots, people in Belfast. Yeah, apparently they're going mental over there.
That's mental. All that talk too. Like not to get too like serious or like negative and stuff and all, but it's just racism is the main thing I have to say.
Yeah.
Mental. Absolutely mental.
I don't think Reddy's luscious locks could do well on a riot. There's a chance of burning. Right, so
Oh no. They would just take him and take him home. They'd be like, that boy's fucking gorgeous. We're taking him home.
they would.
And that's what would happen. Right, we had to smash them powers,
So that'll go there, that'll bounce there, that'll go nowhere, so this one needs to be turned.
Right, hold on. Let me get up the steps like Flemish shit is did there. Good idea.
That'll go there, that'll bounce there, that'll go there, and that'll like, yeah, so it's the job.
Go for it. The glider's on fire.
Confirmed Hook.
What?
Fancy's ready crash. Flemish, you're saying just facts here.
Yes.
I don't understand. I don't understand what
That's
you know,
I'll happily confirm that. That is it. Reddy is a handsome man. Now, I'm not part of that club. But I have no problem admitting that Reddy and Tomahawk especially. Gorgeous men.
Tomahawk is a wonderful mustache. Speaking of handsome men, Akira's just landed in the chat. What is happening?
Oh, there he is. Akira, what is the crack? Welcome in, dude. How'd you get on earlier on? I was lurking you a wee bit.
Other breaking news, water is wet. With a hitch. Wet.
TheHooke, welcome back. Welcome. Thank you for the check-in, dude.
Right. This is the one where it froze last time, wasn't it?
Yes, this is as far as we got to yet.
And it opened
I
up
touched one of those chests, wasn't it? And
doors. Alright, here we go. Fucking
Splinters.
bugs.
I would do squats, no problem. I'll do them after we do this puzzle, sure. No problem. Right, I'll check the other side.
The thing that's kind of
Uh,
baffling me, though,
Well,
is regardless, right, loads of people have different opinions over which show was the best over the week of last week, and that's fine because
right.
different games you are good for different folks. Some people thought Sony did better. Some people thought Xbox. Some people thought Nintendo. Some people thought the Summer Games Fest, which is fine because depending on what
Yep.
games you're after, fair enough. Happy days. I don't
100%.
understand
Yeah.
the arguing and why people are so aggressive about it, though. There's no right or wrong
Consoles,
answer.
console wars are just a thing. People just they pick a side or they'll buy a console because of like say one or two games that they like, and then they're like,
Yeah,
"This is my platform. Everything else is shit,"
yeah.
which is naive, and it's a tale as old as time. It's just what people do. Right? Are you turning a wee laser, Larry?
There's one that goes in there. What's that one about?
Not quite sure. And I'm still nursing a stiffy after that Nintendo Direct. Oh, Akira, what stood out to you? I liked the Final Fantasy HD 2D. Was it
Yeah, that was
Revenant?
pretty cool.
I liked the look of that. That was pretty good. Ocarina, I'm cautious about because I want to see what it actually looks like, not just like a rendered image of Link sleeping.
See if they just turned around and said, it's Ship of Harkinian. I think everyone would be happy.
Well, modern visuals, it looks quite modern, like, which is a good thing, no doubt. A bird's eye view
But,
would have been good here, but
like,
you
for
do. You
me,
seem to. You've got this.
me and you have very different... We've a lot of games that we both really, really like, but we also have very
Yeah.
different opinions on stuff, like with different tastes, which I think is a good thing.
Aye, me too. 100%. 100%. Like, you would never play a sports game where I would dip on the occasional one. Whereas Grand Blue, for example, that you played,
Yeah,
not really my thing.
yeah,
You loved it.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
like Monster Hunter and Persona and stuff, which it wouldn't really be yours. I might have to move you.
Oh, yeah.
You might have to go on
Right,
hide
okay.
in that
Where
wee
do you want me?
cupboard or something.
Aye, alright. Aye. I'll stand around the corner.
Final Fantasy
Tell me what
mobile
I'm
game
allowed to
remake looks good. There we go. That's that lit up. And this is when all the guys come out. And this is where we froze last time. And not in a cool let it go sort of way.
You're right. Oh, so Revenants then, Akira, is that a mobile remake? That hits the 2D one. The whole week has been great. That's all I'm going to say. We gamers are eating good this week. We fucking
We are. We are.
That's the main
That's
thing.
yeah, definitely.
And as responsible working adults, like most of us can have more than one console or more than one means to play games.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, like, no, there's no point holding yourself back. There really isn't. Right. You know what? I have squats to do. Let me stand in this corner while you figure this out, like my beautiful assistant. And
I'm fighting
I will do
snakes
my
in here, so
squats.
it's alright.
Right.
Getting
sweet.
eggs. Getting
Damn
eggs.
snakes. You should be able
Metal
to see me.
Gear. Ah, those footprints are these. Yeah, the remake of Final Fantasy Brave, which is a gacha mobile game. Looks like they remake the console with a gacha. Hopefully, it would be nice, yeah, because Grand Blue's very much like that, where it doesn't really have the gacha element. You just pick which character you want to unlock, but it does kind of in
Right.
that sort of vibe.
I
To see
didn't
whenever
know that, Akira.
I was unlocking characters in Grand Blue, I got to pick which character I wanted.
Right. Okay. Get you. Get you. And I should clarify, like, it's not that I like detest Grand Blue or anything like that. It's just overall, like, I don't get that whole oh wow, I want to play that, but I can appreciate
Yeah.
how cool it is at times.
Oh, it's not your vibe of game, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that they light up this one down here as well. To
Right,
get to the
hold on,
next
there's a bit
level.
here.
Oh, it's a mobile game. It was a mobile game? I didn't know that. Happy days.
Yeah, me either. Right.
Right. I think if
You
they
been busy?
move this laser now, you might want to hide.
Laser.
Laser.
Here, there's steps here, is there? There's steps here. I'll go up the steps. Go for it.
Right, so let's get the other one now.
Nicely done. Ooh. Is there
Oh,
two
I don't-
different lifts now?
But I don't know how I'm getting out of here.
Come on.
Come on.
Oh, there's snakes here.
How am I getting out?
Oh,
I'm gonna
aye.
have to-
Are you stuck?
Oh no, I can go around the long way. Oh no, I can't. Fuck. Right.
No, you can't.
Can I...
There's a snake behind you, by the way. What the feck? Right, hold on. Maybe there's something I can do in here or something. Hold on. Let me roll up here and see.
Do you know what? We might need to. You might need to remove one of the other ones, and then we just move it again once I can get back out. So where are you? You're up that way.
Oh, I get you. I get you. Right.
See if
okay,
you move
right.
that one that's on your side. I'm going to hide
yeah.
behind this.
I don't even see where you are, actually.
Hiding. Yeah.
Okay.
And then just move it back whenever I get through. Right, watch
It
yourself.
doesn't work. Oh,
Fuck!
shit.
It was working.
Shit. I said how long, but you can't stop the animation once you tap the direction. That's my bad.
Any of you play Fire Emblem games on Switch? New one looks great. Last Fire Emblem game I played was Three Houses. I actually loved Three Houses. I didn't play.
No, I can't say I have.
I didn't play Engage, but it looked good. But that's going to lurk. Going to edit my reactions and rewatch my jizz face.
Ooh.
Yes. Fair play, Kira. Fair
I
play.
like it. Combine. Here, no worries on the lurk. Thank you very much. Much appreciated, dude. Right, hold on there. I'm just right in up here. Right, I'm good to go. Right, that's my bad, that one. Shit.
That's the
Reset
thing.
quite a bit there.
Yeah, we bit. It's alright. It's grand.
Right, so do the inside first then. Jesus, Derek, you scared the shit out of me. What is the crack, by the way, bud? Welcome back. Hopefully life is good. Octopath Traveler 0 was a mobile game. So going by that, it should be good. Octopath Traveler, I've not played. And I've wanted to play for the longest time, but I watched Asher play one or two of them on stream, and I absolutely adored it. It's fantastic.
It's very, very good. I played the first one.
I must give her a limit. Some days they're a perfect Steam Deck game.
Oh, they are, yeah.
Right, I have...
With spiders coming up.
Yeah, I have the rocket launcher thing. Flip it.
I don't think we needed the rocket launcher.
It kills them instantly, the smoke bolts. Kills them one shot. It's
Oh,
not
is it a
rocket
grenade
It's
launcher?
a grenade launcher, sorry.
Yeah. That's not too bad.
My bad.
Right, I am going to flip this over now and open the first one.
Go for it.
Just going to hit
Go
you.
for it. No, I'm on the steps. I'm alright.
There we go. Scoobings, scoobings.
Oh, there's a herb down that way. Herbert Linger.
Who's Herb? And why is he down that way?
You still need to watch Shit's Creek, don't you?
No, I've seen Shit's Creek.
Yeah, so how do you not know who Herbert Ertlinger was last week?
Oh, it's been years since I've
The
seen it.
wine guy. Remember the fruity wine that she goes and tastes? Moira. And she was like, oh, it's fantastic, but it tastes like shit. He's the guy making it.
I just remember her going,
Wolfheim's
bye
standing
bye.
here. Right.
Oh, wait, he's just standing there for.
Which one will I be? The cool one? The one whose name no one remembers? Nah, brother, you're the cool one. Always.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been described as the cool one. I don't think it's a thing.
Ah,
Fake
you're cool.
news. What?
I think you're cool.
No, you don't. I pay you to say that.
Ah, fucking snake.
It's a snake.
Everywhere too.
Another one.
What about that?
I called you cool, I think. You did. You did once. That's right. And I have a recording of that. I appreciate that, Flim Flam Bam Lam.
Maybe telling wee lies.
Do
He
you
is cool.
want do you want to go back to the same one again and we'll do the same process?
What do you mean? Oh, yes. Sorry. It was this one? Was it not?
I need to go and flip this one around.
Right, I'll stand behind this one so I'm safe here.
Wicked, wicked, bow, bow. Hook size lies. Hey, Hook 7'3", we talking about.
Right, so that one's going that way.
Right, and just do the same thing you did last
Right,
time.
I'm going to move this left. Stand still, right?
Yeah. Fuck,
How
it
did
got me
that
through the
hit you?
thing. It hit me through the thing. Bullshit.
For
Lies.
fuck's sake. Back in anyway.
Mr. Lava Man. Shava.
feck's sake. Ah well. Okay. When a breaks ready to go solo, develops a habit and comes back and everyone loves it. Good.
Hooke hates
Hooke hates
Leyoric on
Leyoric
purpose. This is true. This is true. He did it on purpose.
Every time we play a game together, I do end up killing you multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's not even intentional. That's the thing.
Is it? Is it though? Is it?
It's just a happy coincidence. I mean, it's just a, it just happens. You're stuck in here. Did you open this chest system? What's up? Nothing.
No, I
the
didn't know.
spiders, right. It lets out the spiders. That's what it does. Okay.
Did you rocket launch them all already?
Oh, aye. Sayonara, suckers.
Right. Where are you? Because I'm going to flip this one around now.
I'm in the middle. Hold on. Let me get somewhere else. Right, I'm going to stand over here on this left.
Yep, that's fine.
Should make me safe.
Stop picking on my favorite streamer. Yes! Legolas. Legolas knows which side our bread's buttered.
Stop thinking. Bring it on, Legolas. 3 o'clock outside school. Let's do it.
Right. We go on and do this now.
Right. Legolas, you're smashing it at the minute with those steps and stuff too. Fair play to you.
What, like the pop band?
Nah, she absolutely loves steps. Buzzes off them.
She joined them. She's the new member.
She joined them.
I don't even know any step songs. I can't even sing any.
No, I was about to start singing S Club there, and then I realised that's
I see. I don't know the
Oh,
difference
Reach.
between them.
Reach
Which
for the
one's
Stars.
which?
That one. You don't have to pretend, because you can hear you. We will protect you. Jeez, you're picking up loads of money in there.
Right. Right. We're going to have to figure this one out now.
How many members do they need before they become a flight? Huh?
Right. Can you hide?
I can try to hide.
Just
Yes, I
hide in
can.
one of them rooms and I'll see if I can do this.
Yep.
Oh shit.
Should
No.
be safe here.
Go that way.
Should be. Nope, you got me.
How did that get you?
I don't know. Zero the Grobbit, welcome in. First time chat. What is the crack?
Danny
you go.
Redfield.
We have killed each other 4 times now with these
It has,
lasers.
yeah.
Lasers.
Lasers.
So,
Could you have had it anywhere else in
this
that
is
room where it
gonna-
wouldn't have got you?
The other side of that room, probably.
We'll try it next. By the
Whenever
stairs.
steps goes solo, do they become step? Yeah, probably. Fair.
You
Oh,
know
wait,
I only
hey,
have a
there's
step
meant to
ladder in the
turn
house. Because I never knew
Right.
a real ladder.
Get this house. Right, hold on. Where can I stand now? To get out of the way. Oh, hey. I was meant to start with that. Sorry, not at all. Jeepers. Welcome in. Thank you very much for coming in, hanging out. Are you a Resi 5 fan? Resident Evil fan in general?
Right, that opens the first one.
Let's fighting some spiders here.
Jesus, Flamash. For fuck's sake.
Oh. Help! The spider on it. Back at spiders. Could have used a grenade launcher, but I don't
No,
want to
you
waste it.
can't just say it's tame after every one of them just because you have decided it's tame. It's not how this works, kid.
There's a transition between being a set of steps and a flight of stairs. It's this fantastic conversation, I have to say. I love steps, hey, especially when they're behind me. That's good. That's good.
Not too
I like
bad. I
that.
haven't done
Sounds
it
like
watching
the
three
art, that's
daddies on my screen. That's
Three
right. You're
daddies?
playing as Chris. I'm sitting going, I'm playing as Shiva. What the fuck?
Where's the 3? I'm only
Well,
having a
we
pronoun.
are actually we are actual dads. Like, actually,
Well,
Chris
we
is the
are
only one who
dads, aye.
Chris is the only one who isn't a dad. He's an imposter.
Alright. Well, fair enough.
You
You
like
like
it?
Resident Evil. You hate it after watching these 2 butchered. That is true, Tomac. We, well, we are getting our way through Resi 5.
Like, do you want to hide?
But
Is there anything on that chest that
Feeling
we
our way
actually
through.
need? Need the one in the middle.
it's empty. The one in the middle.
So why do you
Right, I'm
keep
in a
opening
corner
it?
here. You opened it
Are,
the first time, yeah, man.
are you away from everything?
Yes. I should be.
Right.
Potentially. Put me on the screen, I'll be the third. Really, I accessed this to Leyoric the other day. That you used to. Should co-stream something sometime.
Did you? Eh?
I think that would be fantastic. I did, I.
That's that one.
Don't hide, stand behind him. I was doing that earlier on, Tomahawk, yeah. Can I move yet? No?
No, not yet.
Okay. Always down to clown. I honestly think he's too big. A great laugh to watch. Oh. I was peeking there and he nearly got me.
Peak Entertainment.
So many good games announced this week though. I'm just sitting here trying to think. Rocket Wars, welcome back. Thank you kindly. What's the crack? How are you? Good to see you.
Right, that's your bit. To do Code Veronica head to head.
Ooh.
Well, I should
Hope
do
everything's
Resident Evil
going well.
6.
It is. It is. Thank you kindly for asking. Been a nice enough start to the week and getting to do some Resi co-op now with my good bodily work. So life is
There we
good.
go, we figured it out. Game completed.
There we
Well
go.
done.
Right. So down to we shared left now.
Yep.
Oh, you're there now. Sweet.
Like vibes.
On my
I
way.
tried her. This is actually how you're meant to play the game. People instantly put me off. Oh no, we do not know how to play games. That's our thing. That's our
Oh,
thing.
that's definitely not us. Basically, like Leoric's kind of the same. Where this is like a podcast with some gaming sprinkled in, and it's like we figure it out as we go. Allow the odd bit of backseating as well. I'll shut up now because it's content.
Girls keep change the keyboard and mouse. No, it's not. Girls keep change the controller. No, it's not. Listen to me though. I know how she play games. That's right. Reddy's an expert.
I've watched quite a bit of Resi out of order.
These are no ordinary
What, you mean like the
flowers.
game's out of order?
No, it's when you say something you like flummish, where it's completely inappropriate. So you're watching Resident Evil, but you're completely out of order.
Ah, that's what you mean. You're right. Okay. Have you seen them all or like played them all? This is as far as we played, isn't it? You haven't played Resi Zero, but I have.
Does BNAG annoy you? Hook?
BNAG. What?
Bang out of order.
Umbrella.
What?
Oh, BANA. Right.
I don't know. It doesn't look like anyone's been around for a while.
You can be sure they want to
Right
keep
out.
this place a secret.
Some of this equipment's got the Triso logo on it. Are they
Triso?
working together?
Zelda.
Cell. Zelda. There's Zelda.
There we go, chapter.
Was that the end
Nice.
of that?
Just finished eating cranberry chicken salad for lunch. Ooh. Very nice. What else? Had strawberry lemonade with my cranberry. Oh, nice. As in, I've watched quite a bit of decent amount of gameplay, but not in order, so can't piece a story together. Oh, right,
I don't-
okay. I
I
get
don't
you.
think
Well, if it helps, like we don't know what's going on either.
I don't think watching it in order helps either.
We asked each other at the end of the last stream, then we doing this, and we were like, you know what's going on? We were like, not really.
We're in a cave.
Like-
We're fighting mummies, and there's light.
Having the big
There's,
set
there's
pieces.
fucking lasers. I don't know how they got the power for lasers down in this ancient Aztec temple, but they did.
Yeah. I know. And then there's like the wee weird fella that keeps turning himself into a big fish. Zero, thank you very much for follow. That is very kind.
That's me. I don't
Thank
like you saying that about me. I'm not a wee weird fella who's turning into a fish.
Wee
Only
weird
in
fella
it.
turns into a fish. Hold on a
My
second,
damage
my-
scales.
I
Right?
need to turn my light up, yeah. Hold on. I think I forgot to turn this light up.
I forgot.
There we go. Thought it was a bit darker. Right, we picked up some stuff. How we may sell it, you know.
We didn't pick up
Um,
much, but I think we got a fair bit of money.
Treasure. Oh, that helps too. Right, and if I... So I have the rocket launcher. I might put that in inventory, you know.
can't upgrade I can't upgrade my shotgun any further. What?
Well, that's a nice problem to have.
You've purchased all available upgrades. I don't agree with that. Oh, my handgun, can I upgrade that any further?
Capacity.
Yes, yes I can.
Yeah, I'm going for my shotgun as well because it's badass.
There we go, that'll do me.
Right, apart from that, I have some bolts. And I might buy a wee health item. That's probably about it. No. Or rounds actually for my grenade launcher. It's not a bad shoot.
I wonder when they remake this, will it be co-op? I would say they'll probably enhance the AI. You know, the way that we Sherry or Cheryl, which one was it in Resident Evil 4 where she got incredibly better?
Oh, the girl that I
Ashley.
killed with
Actually,
Ashley.
Yeah.
God, she was a massive pain in the hole still, even in the remake.
but she was a dose in the original. She was worse.
She was worse than that's true.
I wonder if this is what Irving meant.
She was
Daddy
grand in
Ken.
the OG. Look at Flemish, has to say the opposite, doesn't he?
Obviously, there's a
Fucking
She
hell.
was not grand in the OG.
She
I've
was a
watched people play
nightmare.
the OG, and even in the remake, she was a menace. She just kept walking out, getting herself killed.
People over-exaggerate how bad she was.
Might be close to getting a triple barrel shotgun, Hydra shotgun. Son, ooh, triple barrel. I do agree though. I think they will co-op this. Still, like you have to keep
Yeah,
that as an element. You have to.
Why not? Like it's a. I was. If they ever redid Zero, I think they should co-op that one.
Zero's a very good game.
You played that on stream. That
Very
looked
good
very
game.
good. Yeah.
I loved it. Hey. Apart from the inventory, like I've said a few times, like the inventory management in that game is a bit shite.
Yeah,
But
I
apart
think
from
that's a challenge with it, though, isn't it? That they want you to struggle with inventory.
Aye. Like I remember dropping things on the map and then coming back later to get it again, for example. Which is cool that it stays there too.
So these
But the
flowers
thing
are
that kept
important.
happening. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
No, they
The
are.
thing that kept happening with Zero was like, oh, go ahead. But,
No, these are the flowers that the viruses and all are based off.
oh,
Yeah. As Zero's pointless co-op.
shit. Okay. enough.
Small and shiny in the ceiling back then. Hard to see. Red was there? Small and shiny in the ceiling.
Ceiling. Oh, good spot.
Do you see
Yeah,
it?
look. May as well. Don't yet. Keep looking. Back towards the starter rocket, yeah. Oh, see it. There we go. Got it. Good spot, rocket. Well done. Ooh. Wee ruby. Really small. You're not wrong. It was about the size of the laser pointer. You could. Zero is pointless. Co-op. Characters separated so much is pointless. Zero for co-op wouldn't. Fair enough. That could you could do without the co-op there. But Zero itself as a game is definitely worth a play, in my opinion. You want to redo me? What do you mean, Zero?
Look, I need your help. I can't
Oh.
open doors on my own apparently because I'm a female and this game is sexist.
I've caught on, Zero.
Rocket wants a sub for that.
Rocket wants a sub. Yeah, you could do.
Don't you come on at me, I'm waiting on you.
I was mashing B. Might have another chicken salad for dinner tonight. Why not? Sure, it's chicken and it's salad, so you've all the protein, and then it's all the healthy stuffs. That's a one. Oh,
There is machine gun ammo in here.
nice.
Oh, we're
I
playing
think I'm
games?
full, actually, but
Playing games?
1998.
And there's just an incendiary grenade in here. If you have room for it. I do not.
No worries, I'm not reading that. I'll take the grenade.
Oh.
Oh shit, what was that?
Don't know.
That'll
Look like a
liquor?
liquor.
It did, didn't it? Well, shit.
And there's a herb over here. I can't
Discarded
help
the
it.
incendiary grenade. That's probably a mistake. To be completely honest,
It was a liquor.
it was bollocks.
Wonderful. They're not the worst enemies
Yeah,
I've
sure,
ever
we
met in my life. They don't wreck every single speedrun.
I know they absolutely ruin it. So for anyone that's new here in chat as well, Leyoric does Resi 2 speedruns. When are you doing the next one?
Tomorrow night.
Alright, I was thinking that. I just didn't want to say it and speak out of turn. But you're new enough to it, but you've been learning it and
Very new.
making steady progress too.
Trying to actually finish one on stream is an absolute nightmare.
There's a lot of bullshit right gets in your way to be fair.
It does. It's to do with that difficulty adjustment. If you're too high, working 2 is a nightmare.
That's such a cool feature. And you can only see that because of the speedrunning too. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
It's always there. It's always there in the background anyway, but you can only see it because of speedrunning. And the wee tool that you use, SRT speedrun tool. I'm not even joking. That's what it's called.
Sure, one of the ones you have to use for Halo is
What do you think
called
happened
Cheat
here?
Engine or something like that.
What do you think happened here? Eh? I
That's
think
us.
someone had a red velvet cake and they dropped it when they were walking over to the party. So there's a party in here. Spoilers.
Oh, red velvet is the best.
I'm a cheesecake or a carrot cake kind of guy. Love a carrot cake.
Ooh, carrot cake's nice actually. I'll give you that.
See when it's a
I'll
wee
wear
bit spicy. It's a little bit spicy. Do you want that ammo?
My inventory's full.
I'll take it.
You take it. Yeah. Carrot cake. I haven't had a carrot cake in a long time.
Oh, you can't be eating too much
eating
spicy
so much
food.
spicy food.
It's not that. It's not like your hot sauce.
No. No.
But you know the shock on this looks like somewhere we're going to get murdered. Look at the claw marks on the walls and everything. Right, there's a big lever over here. I'm going to pull it.
Go for it.
Oh, let me actually pull a lever on my own. Jesus. Woman power.
It was a liquor. But do we need to break his glass in?
Liquor these nuts. How do you know you break the glass?
I just thought bolt might break it. That's all. Right.
Oh, dogs. Oh no, goats.
Now it's finally a bit of a horror game here.
These are the greatest of all time, you know. That's why they're the goats. That's why they're the goats.
Thanks again for the follow, Zero. Do you stream anything yourself? Can I pet the goat?
Can I pet that dog? It's a massive. These are massive rats.
Of course they are. Back in Souls games follow me everywhere.
There's a green herb over here in the corner as well.
Oh shit, I found the liquor. Help. It's got its tongue on me. Oh, there's two. Shit, it's got me again.
That sounds like dogs. He's dead.
Nice. Nicely job. Right, I need...
Top tip: kill all the kill the lickers. What would we do without you? What would we actually do?
Shoot the bad guys. Top.
Top tip.
Where's a herb? You were saying? Sweet.
Do the thing. Be the champion. Win the goals.
I could eat the eggs.
No, but
though.
seriously, you can't avoid them or just kill them. But killing them gets good
So-
treasure.
Are lickers blind? Or did I
Yes.
just make that up?
No, they're blind.
I was
They're
thinking
blind.
that
They're
there.
sensitive to sound.
Killing them gets good treasure. Yeah, definitely.
So you can, especially in like RE2 and stuff, you can just sneak past them if you're quiet enough and you move slowly enough. Weirdly enough, I suppose flashbangs, because of the noise, stun them.
Aye, of
Powder
course.
tip.
Aye.
Lick all the lickers. That's how you get them. That's how you really throw them off. They don't expect it.
I'm assuming we have to go around that way then. Chasm, two of Twitch's most luxurious ladies together again. Chasm, what is happening, you handsome devil?
Do you have any room for anything? There's an AK-47 over here, if you want it.
AK-47? I do not have room. Feel free to take if you want. Right, my ads are going to start soon.
Do you want to just keep going?
I do like to pause. If
Yeah,
ads are
no
going to run, you know. And I need to get a drink. Just finished
Keep
getting
going.
water, got thirsty. I'm exactly the same, Rocket. Usually I have a drink before I start the stream, but I forgot.
If you want to take a
Do you
break
know
and go get a drink, I'll run ads as well, sure.
So, folks, whenever the ads run, you're going to see Leoric's Beer back game as I send at start of the stream. Exclamation mark vote 1 or vote 2 in either chat will work because it's Leoric's game, of course.
Well, we
Beer
hope we haven't tested this.
champion. Eh?
We haven't tested it.
We haven't tested it, so let us know if it works.
Yeah. Chat
Be
to you
right
about-
back.
Whee!
When the silence falls, empty throne waiting, something's building in the air, voices rising, the battle lines are drawn, choose your side, no going back now. Cast your vote of kings, crown the one that ruled your heart. Vote of kings, tear the old world apart. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of kings. Soldiers from distant lands, materia and crystal shining. Would you kindly take your stand? Praise the sun tonight. From Raccoon City to Midgar, history in your hands. Cast your vote of kings, crown the one that ruled your heart. Vote of kings, tear the old world apart. Which legend takes the throne? Cast your vote of kings. Seven versus eight,
Heyo, that's me back.
Back. There we go. I'm back too.
Uncharted 2, very happy with that one. Although it was me and you at the very end there. But it worked. It worked. The
It was.
voting cross-stream worked.
It worked. Fantastic.
Amazing. Amazing. We're
I like it.
geniuses.
Now might be right back. You don't have to listen to stupid clips. When it's
Those
a co-op.
cretins voted for Tsushima over Metal Gear Solid 3. I 100% agree. I think it's a better game than Metal Gear Solid 3.
Ooh, I missed that part. I don't know. I've not played Tsushima, so I can't really say, but I watched you stream it. Metal Gear
Right.
Solid 3 is fantastic.
It's a great game. It's not the best Metal Gear Solid game, though.
What is, in your opinion?
Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah, 100%. In my opinion, too. Though. In your absence, these cretins, yeah, I didn't see it really. Didn't see it.
3 and
MGS
4 were
1.
just movies. Chasm, you're not wrong. 4 especially.
You're
Peace
completely
Walker.
right, dude. Chasm, what is the crack, by the way? Are you well? Fucking good to see you. Good music, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Rocket.
Right, so...
So I realized that I had your stream preview muted, so nobody could hear the fancy "Be Right
That's
Back"
alright.
game song. So I just played music instead.
Don't worry
Oh.
about it.
Yeah.
Right, we're going up these stairs now then.
Right. Let me come back to the game then.
Although I'm
Folks,
excited to replay
before
4.
I do-
Generally buzzing. Haven't played it in nearly 20 years. Ready? I agree. 4, the fact that it's unlocked the PlayStation 3 is a damn shame because yes, it has massive cutscenes, but it's also a great game.
I happened to have bought a PlayStation 3 Slim like 2 days ago, and it'll be coming in a few days
Ooh.
time because I'm gonna play God of War 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
The originals, which I was talking to you about.
The sounds nice.
But again, Metal Gear Solid 4 I could pick up on the PS3 as well, and then I'd own a physical copy, which would be nice too.
PS3
So
sounds
folks,
nice. And
if you
it
don't know
doesn't
Chasm, check him out, please. He's a lovely dude. But sorry, Leo, go ahead.
it doesn't have that stupid gloss thing that scrapes and leave fingerprints, so the Slim was lovely.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I need to tab back into the game. Right, we're back. We're back.
That
God
baffled
of War
me over the
Dodgy is
last week.
genuinely so good. Eh?
That baffled me
What's
over
that?
the last week. Ugh, I can't believe they're bringing a God of War game with a female protagonist. And he's just like, shut up. Go away.
I thought the story was fantastic. Sure, it's Kratos' wife who you see die in the first game.
I know.
And, like, you're going to see it, like, their journey and hers from the perspective of the afterlife. Or like a
It's-
limbo. Like, that's
but it's
fantastic.
the whole male gamer
Yeah.
collective go,
Aye.
"Ew."
course,
Oops.
of course.
That was you with a laser. I thought it was like a Gatling gun or something.
But I am excited to replay or to play the originals. Really, I have to say. I've been looking though, trying to get God of War 1, 2, and 3 because 1 and 2 are in a collection and it's really expensive. 3 you can buy on its own, or you can buy all 3 in a collection, but it is stupidly expensive as well.
What was that noise?
I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, look in there through the wee gaps.
Who's going to do all the sex minigames? Wait, what? Safe was by the machine gun back there. Go back. Oh, hold on. There's a safe back here there. By the machine gun.
The machine gun, that was the one I went on to.
In this wee room here, was it?
All sort of half-plate, no magic things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cheers, dude. Gold bars. Nice. 3,000 in currency. Good spot. Rocket. Yeah, great. I mean, I've kind of done a bit too much gambling this month, so I'm going to pretend it didn't happen, but myself doing well. Still have a headache earlier, but good now. What's the crack, gentlemen? Did you both watch the gaming convention releases over the week? We did.
We did.
I'm not-
Enjoyed it.
I'm glad you're well. I'm glad you're well.
I miss E3.
Oh, I do miss E3. I know we're getting essentially the equivalent of E3, but I miss E3 because it was just hype, and plus every event was like on that stage, and multiple in the one day. Like it was just fantastic. I love
And,
E3.
they,
It's just
and they were competing. Do you remember when the PS4 and Xbox One came out and Sony was again competing against Xbox, and it was very visceral. It was good. I liked it.
always the rivalry. Yeah. So intrigued by the afterlife it presented. It seems to be a sort of afterlife. They hadn't seen us when you started blasting. You mad, man?
Yeah, but Plum Plum said they killed them all.
Shit, my ammo. It doesn't help.
You're shooting, come on, I'm on the ground getting eaten. Oh, I'm dead.
That's because you started shooting. Don't shoot this time, because there's too many. You man, man. You could
Or
have just sneaked past.
grenades.
I'm intrigued by the afterlife it presented. It seems to be a sort of afterlife of all magic things. It seems to have mixed mythologies, so I assume we're going to see Zeus. Yes, because there was like, you're right about the mixed mythologies as well. I've seen something about that. A couple of the gods that you see there. One of them is a god of war from a different mythology, which is pretty fucking cool as well. So, I did like that, I have to say. God of War 1 to 3 have 6 minigames. Well, 1 and 2 definitely do. I can't remember. What? Right, I'll have
Yeah,
to
they
skip
do, yeah.
them on stream then. Okay. He really said 6.
Man, I have 3 grenades. I could just fucking throw grenades at them.
Hold on. Let me combine and reload and all that shit. Before you go wrecking, boys. I wish I had more
Wrecking
shotgun
boys!
weapons. Right.
Hold on. Go like,
You don't have to kill them though. You could save the ammo.
why did I just give you
Oh,
grenades?
did you give me ammo?
I didn't mean to. I was pressing the button to open the door.
What'd you give me? Grenades? Here,
grenade.
I'll give them back. Give. Yeah. Right. Open. There we go. Trailer for Resident Evil Veronica looks good. It does, Rocket. It looks amazing, doesn't it? I have not played Veronica though. I know Rudy did, but I've not played it. Right.
Guess their
We're going to
senses are
sneak.
weak.
Just to be safe, we should be as quiet as possible.
Boo. Boo this house. Boo. Oh, they came out anyway.
Glass shattering. Right there, crouch. Right, run. Right.
Could have been done before RE4. Yeah, RE4's a great game. It didn't really need it, though.
Here comes the liquor. Come on, left. Right, keep it up there for the grenades.
Oh, I'm being licketed.
Shit. There's no process to help me. There you go. Turn around. Run. Run. Wait to press the button.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Ah. There we go. Sweet.
We're going up in the world.
I agree. I
eh?
enjoyed the look of that. I can't say what games I like the look of Too Many to Choose, but I definitely want to play that God. I 100% do. Honestly, I think it's going to be great. Now, I've not played Ragnarok. That's a game I do want to play at some stage. Probably this
Oh,
year on stream,
no.
to be completely honest. What?
Giving us loads of ammo.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's
There's a
never
boss
good.
fight.
Oh, I do have a grenade. That's...
Look at this nice
handy.
big open room.
Yes. Beautiful. Veronica remake long overdue, should have been done before 4, you feel? But Veronica is actually 4 in the series. I've asked this before, but I can't remember. When is Veronica based? Like between 3 and 4? In the canon? This looks like the room that Vader says, "No, I am your father."
This was in the pictures too.
Between 3 and 4.
I'm laughing turn about
No,
not being
why you
happy
said
with
it?
ammo.
That means Jill might be.
But I'm laughing and turning it, but not been it. Yeah, God. That's not good.
It's the same whenever they did Metal Gear Solid 3, the remaster. MGS1 needed it for it, or even Metal Gear 1 and 2, the older ones.
Yeah. 100%. Now, I know why, like, lore-wise, they did MGS3 first. Like, if you're just talking MGS, not Metal Gear.
The dinosaurs in Lara Croft, in the original Tomb Raider, they were a secret that you stumbled across. Now they're just like, oh, we're going to put them in the trailer.
Well, sure, they did that with the Halo 1 remake that's coming out next month. Like, all the trailers, like, over the last month didn't show the flood at all. And then the one last night for the campaign did, and I was like, seriously? You could
Yeah,
have just left that out for anyone that didn't know.
Jill.
You could have got that surprise again.
It's Jill.
Oh, Jill. Ah, shit. Why do I feel like all these pods are going to open and fall down top of us?
I think all these pods are going to open and fall down on top of us.
I want to try playing the new Lara Croft. I've only played... I played the original on the PlayStation 1, but I never finished. And I played the modern Lara Croft games.
Kidnapping people from all over the world to
Like from
I
like
played
2013 or so.
the original 1, 2, and 3, and 3 was difficult. Like if you weren't at
Was
the
it?
exact right millimeter, like she died.
Mm. They got a remake like last year, the year before, though, didn't they? In like a collection.
It was a remaster, yeah.
Remaster.
This
sorry.
is the remake that's coming out now.
That's why.
Right. That's a valid distinction. Jesus. What the fuck is that? It's like a kraken.
Oh, it's a giant crab. Things have gone
Right.
sideways real fast.
I get that. There's levels to that too.
There is. I thought so. You alright?
Absolutely bonked me. Yep. Gonna heal myself here. Suppose if I do it near you, it'll work too.
I don't know if we should be shooting its legs or what the story is.
Its legs look weak, don't they? The red spots. A little bit of red spots.
Is there red spots on them? I would go for the legs then. Can I press the button? No, will it be now? You're getting a dick! Shave my hand grenades.
Kick it in the ass. Oh, bollocks, my ammo. There we go. Oh, it's gonna fall. We can get its face now. Get its face. Is there like a prompt we can do? Nope. I'll get too close. Oh, it's recovered.
Who's down again?
We're down already again. Well done. Wait to shoot its... Keep shooting its legs, I wonder? Whoa.
Oh, it's making
nice.
sperm babies. Down again. Nope.
Nice. Bollocks. Chapel shots? Oh, how's my fault?
Grenade.
Good shot. Right, told me they were shot. Oh, no.
Oh, I left it up.
You're alright. Not them. Oh, try and save me. Oh, right in front of me. Dodge.
Oh, I got hit.
Jesus, that's a hard one for me at the minute. Leave me alone, would you?
Yeah, he's down again. Right, so what are we tossing on here? Oh, toss on. Here we go.
Grenade. Right, thank you,
There we
Rocket. Legend. Oh, its head's exposed now. Right, new target. Target.
Parkour. I wonder if we toss it on his head cavity next. Down again.
Then again. Nice. Be an grenade.
Babies are dropping ammo. That's what they do.
Ah, okay.
Choke on this.
Rocket, you're a legend. Thank you kindly.
His head's even more exposed now. Is it going to be like a Zelda
Yeah.
boss where you need to take him down 3 times?
Probably. Oh,
Ooh, that was close.
well, it's knocking us off balance.
Well, that's not good.
Oh shit, that's a way of peg.
He's down again. I'm going to go for him.
Nice. Go for it.
I hope I have a grenade. I do. Die, you abomination!
Please be it.
See, that's not what I would shout. I would go, look at you fucking bastard.
I know. Nice, well done.
Yeah,
Kick it
thank
in
you,
the
chap.
dick. McKenzie, what's happening? Rocket, thank you very much. Appreciate the help. So I was saying a wee bit earlier, Leoric's kind of the same way.
No, I'm not.
We don't mind about
What?
the backseating.
Oh, actually, that's fine.
As long as it's not straight up, this is going to happen and spoilers and all that jazz. But see, like that, like you were, like, we tips not happy days. Thank you. Much appreciated. I don't know what this is going to be. Jill?
Jill.
Hi, my name is Jill.
Oh, she's invisible.
Wait to get on.
Stealth.
Damn it. Where is she?
Where are you going this weekend? We're going up to
Nice to finally make your acquaintance.
Island McGee, it's called. Mackenzie, funny enough, it's not that far from Lauren.
Nice. You've done your homework.
An officer in the Global Pharmaceutical Consortium. Why?
As if I need to explain myself to you. Although, weren't you two given orders to retreat?
So it was you.
You annoy me most about this part.
Where's
What?
Jill?
The fucking team's call again.
Even if I did know, you think I would tell you?
Cut the
Oh,
crap.
what do you see? What do you see? My boss got me.
As soon as you two are done with your little vigilante mission, you should
What's it say?
leave. There's nothing here with throwing your lives away.
Running on dad jokes and caffeine.
She's lying. She knows
Fantastic.
something.
It's time we get some answers.
Our weather's turning good this weekend. Sundays was apparently brilliant.
It better be because it's absolutely pissing down at the moment. That's an hour about a chapter done there. Good progress, man.
Yeah, 5-1. I don't even know how many chapters there are, but we're doing well. We're doing well.
Rocket, it is absolutely torrential rain here at the moment. Torrential.
If it was
Nice to
spiders, it'd
say.
be torrential. Don't stop shaking your head. Go on, just give it to me. No, not like that.
I'll give it to you, no bother. Let's see, right. So we have treasures to sell again. A Joe Beetle. Nice. Anything else? Yep.
Yeah,
sell.
or Jim.
At Backlash?
Backlash.
Backlash. At Backlash.
That's such a good redeem.
Backlash. Backlash.
Oh, that's so good.
At
I think
Backlash.
we can buy stuff. Tell me there's new stuff we can
Backlash.
buy. AK-47.
At
Tell
Backlash.
me what you want.
At
All
Backlash.
redeems are going off of mine.
Excuse me?
Nice. Loud
No.
noises. Good
Backlash.
for your treat as well. Good. She deserves
No.
them.
No. I'm not going to give you a treat if you call me that.
That's one thing
What
I
do you
wouldn't mind
say?
getting to show up for me in my chat. Whenever one of your redeems goes off. But
We could
it's
do
not
it
part of
because-
shared chat.
We could do it. Like, I could pop that on the... See the actual scene I share with you? I could put her camera on it, so it pops up on yours too.
Oh, you could actually.
Leo!
Oh, you could, huh?
Leo! Where did the puppy go? Leo, come here.
Need lots of rifle ammo for the next area. Oh, you're a legend, right? You know what? I'll get the rifle out.
Leo!
Organize. Let's see. I might.
But she's not appearing. She was there a second ago looking at me too.
So.
Oh, now you land. As soon as I turn the camera off, you land. Where are you? Come here.
Here.
Where's the baby? What'd you get? What'd you get? There we go. See, are you happy now?
It's grenade. Stem.
I'm happy now. Carry on. Carry on. There we
I have the
go.
rifle.
Doggo got a treat.
Uh,
Nom 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 nom. We can't buy ammo though yet, can we? No.
I don't think you can buy ammo now. You can just buy weapons. You have to. Well, you can buy like flash rounds and like shit like that. So I will buy flash rounds actually because I have explosive rounds as well. Bulletproof vest you can buy for 10,000. We don't have 10,000, like, but
I just bought
Yeah.
one. I don't know if I have to keep buying it if it runs out
enough.
or what the crack is, but
I think it'll run out there.
hopefully
Right.
it'll do me a wee bit.
Good to go. Good to go.
So this was the facility.
Upgrade capacity for guns to get ammo. Yeah, I think we both have our pistol and our shotguns basically maxed, don't we?
We do, yeah.
You can ask her about that.
I'm happy now. Carry on.
All right. Let's
So I'm
find
assuming
it then.
this is the way we have to go, because it's kind of pointless, this
Yeah.
direction.
Because the lift went down, man. Right, I do need ammo, but sure. What's new? Always need ammo.
You didn't hear an ad, did you?
No.
That's
What
right.
was it?
I needed a fart, and I was looking at my microphone to see if it was actually picking it up.
Brilliant.
Right, incinerator grenades, gold. Do you need rifle ammo?
I'll take rifle. My inventory's full, so I need to do something rejigging here. Don't
There's a Bruno Mars grenade there as well.
know why I just give you rifle ammo, but sure. Or not rifle ammo,
Right,
machine gun
I'll take
ammo.
it.
Where's my
You
inventory
gave me
full?
machine gun ammo, did you?
Hold
Thank you.
on.
I don't need it.
Scared.
Didn't need to pick it up. The look on his face gave it away. Yep, it's a fart
Rifle
face.
Nice one, Mackenzie. I was wondering why you were typing exclamation mark E earlier. Chat, we don't have the shared command set up for every command now. Just a booting game.
Oh, did you try it in
Yeah,
mine,
put up-
McKenz? No, it won't work on mine.
Seen it there. No, it's just a booting game, Mackenzie.
Oh, there's actual soldiers with the fight.
Oh, aye, what the fuck? Right, okay, so this is why we need a rifle. Hold on to get the rifle out. Reload it. Maybe they're friendly. How'd you
Yeah.
crouch?
I walked up it and pressed X.
Oh. Okay.
Gives you a prompt for it, like.
They're not friendly.
Nope.
Holy
definitely
shit.
not. God.
Ready with
God, they tore through my health.
me. Yep.
Where are you going again at the weekend? I didn't hear you right. Did you hear him left, though?
Oh, you're alright. I'm going to Island McGee, it's called. Mackenzie, it's up near, fun enough, it's up near Lauren, where Leoric's from. Here.
Where
do you need
Lazy's
help?
from?
I think I have it.
I'm,
stand here.
I'm
Come here.
like dying.
Stand beside me. Come over.
What happened
So
to that
you get on the
bulletproof vest I
radius.
bought? Thank you. Appreciate you.
There we go. I think they shredded your bulletproof vest.
Yeah, very
To tell
quickly.
you the truth.
I think we're going to have to take cover as we
more.
go through here.
Alright. He has like an electric baton. What the fuck? Why have I not got a gun out for?
That was on the shop. You could buy one. I think we just take it easy. Wait for them to reload. We could take them down.
Yeah. Take our time. Right. What's that?
Picking up that green herb.
Rifle ammo, please, or something? Rifle ammo? Sweet. Machine gun ammo. You can take that if you need it. No?
I probably need a machine gun. Although I do have the AK-47, but I've
Oh,
no
I
room
thought
for
you
it.
had one. Right. Reload,
Can't
mate.
believe you go away
Can't believe
for
you
the
go
weekend.
away on the weekend. I get off work. Topical. It is mad how that works out, McKenzie. Didn't need to pick it up. The look on the face giving it all away.
Like, there's loads of handgun ammo here.
There is. Under just a rifle, explosively rounds. I'm going to discard that.
You ready?
So we'll take that handgun out. There you go.
These boys are just shooting.
Reload. Here now.
I got him. Off wall. Off wall.
Oh shit, there's loads of them.
Yep. And they're coming for us.
Better get closer again and shot on their faces again.
That's why he's running.
Uh,
Do a lot of.
Nice.
They're not zombies. They're just unhappy. They're unhappy with us.
Aye. I look like a zombie some days in work when I'm not enjoying what I'm doing.
I was like at the day, man. I got no sleep at all last night. My nose was all bummed,
way.
and I just couldn't. I was up every 15 minutes.
Oh man, that's rough. Fun, Mrs. Hook's picking sick at the minute. Explosive rounds or a grenade launcher do lots of damage to zombies. That's, you're completely right. I seen your comment there and can't confirm. Absolutely destroy them. I'll take that away from it.
We have a door here, but we also have a wee path up here somewhere. Oh no, there's nothing. It's a lie. Oh, it's not. It's not a lie. Not a lie.
Ah.
There's handgun ammo
Sort of
and
that
there's
spawned, probably.
red herb. It doesn't let you combine. You know, if you can't pick it up and you can't pick it up and combine. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. I wish you could.
Come on.
Sweet. Speaking of farts, that clip of me
Oh,
doing
it's
squats
brilliant.
on.
I don't think
stream.
it's an actual Twitch
No.
clip though. It's just one that recorded separately.
I see. Maybe it wasn't.
Can
that
combine
was
red and green
fun.
herbs. Yeah, but you have to pick them both up first. You see, you have to have room. Oh shit. Oh, it's one of them fuckers. We have to keep remembering our melee attacks.
Oh, aye, that's right. Right, let's see. There's like mounted machine guns up there. Oh, gentlemen. He is on the run.
It feels like Time Crisis now, doesn't it?
It does about that. But like an unreal shooting section here.
Yeah. Spaghetti. Bolognese.
Right. He's dead.
There's someone else up there with a machine gun though.
Yeah. Las Plagas? That's what it's called, isn't it? It's a wee worm.
Wee worm. Oh, itchy ear. Itchy ear. Itchy ear. Ah, itchy. There we go. There's two of them standing there and they're not doing anything.
Oh, aye, in the back. Didn't even see them there.
Yeah, they're just like, all right, what's happening? What are you doing on Friday? Oh, nothing. You think we could get off work? Yeah, I don't think so. Do you
Whoa,
see
what the
Scotland's getting a
frick
bank
is that?
holiday for the World Cup?
Are they?
They're getting the
No way.
15th. They're getting a bank
See.
holiday. The Prince Charles
We-
getting a bank
oh, we
holiday.
didn't qualify. So there's that.
You what?
So we would get one, but we didn't qualify. Nor Forsyth, as far as I know.
Aye, that's your man Thierry Henry's fault again. Still blame him after last time. There's machine gun ammo here. Oh no,
All these years later. Fucking fantastic player. Robbed us of a World Cup.
no. Handballing bastard.
Only way is up. We're doing well tonight, hey? It's very
think
linear
so.
tonight, isn't it?
That is a wee bit more. So, well, then puzzles at the very start were a bit.
Oh well.
I think it was our own stupidity though.
Well, I kind of just stood there and let you figure it out.
It was my own stupidity then.
Texella. Albert.
Albert. Alberto. Del cerveza, por favor. ¿Dónde estás?
Shit.
So it sounds like they're picking up.
I thought he
Yeah,
was
Albert
dead.
Wesker, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's his full name. Yeah. Picking up an interference there. The only way is up.
I need help. Is that yellow or is it green?
Agreed. Go for it.
Can't pick it up though. Fuck. I'm going to give you some ammo.
Go for it.
I need ammo.
Oh no, I want to give Can I hand it to you now?
No, you have to do it in the menu. Go to the item and then go to give. Hit flame bars by the zombies. Right. We'll do. Keep an eye out for them.
It won't let me give it to you.
Save ammo.
I'll give you that.
Um,
I'll give you a handgun range.
right. Wait.
Right,
I'll
I'm
take
going
that.
to use this now. There we go.
Did he you too?
Yeah, did I?
I do not like the look of this. They have for free.
Look at what? What are we looking at?
This place we're in.
Let's
Thank you very
find
much.
these.
Yep.
Oh,
Do
sweet.
not shoot.
I don't think we have a choice in the matter.
Maybe. Right, hold on. Incendiary rounds then?
I think we get them all in one spot first, then incendiary roads.
Lure them
Or
to us.
do you
Right,
think
let's
we
find
could
one
walk
and
through
just
it?
wait tunnel.
Even if Ireland get to the World Cup, we live in the north, so we wouldn't have got the bank holiday. McKinn's, I don't know why
That's
you're
why I says
saying
north or
them.
south.
Why are you
McKinn's.
saying them? Why are you saying them mean words for?
I says that's I says then I was like north or south didn't qualify.
Right. Did I ever tell you that when I looked at it when I was younger, and even though I was born in Northern Ireland, I can't play for the Republic or the North of Ireland.
Why?
I'm shit at football.
You're born in Dublin, were you not?
No, I lived in Dublin when I was very young.
Ah, right, okay.
I'm going to go
Were
for
you
it.
just trying to walk it?
Yeah, why not? Give it a go.
Yeah, I should.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't advise it.
Does look like they're following you though.
Are you fighting them?
Nope. I'm just walking behind you.
Can hear them getting vicious in the background. Oh shit. I'm rubbing against one.
One right beside you. Yeah.
Oh, I got me.
Ah, shit. Well,
Shabba!
that's too slow. That's too slow. Bollocks. Right, maybe we just kill them this time.
You reckon so?
Organize, let's see. So that's rifle ammo. Flash rounds. Okay. Right now, I think I'm good. I'm good.
You good. You good.
Right, take care.
It's just here. Just, yeah. Gold. Always believe in your soul. You can take ammo.
Nice. Listen to that rain outside. It's insane.
Not even raining here.
No way. Right, I think we stand back. See in here at the starting area? Shoot
Yeah.
in here. It should attract them. And then I'll just grenade launch them.
Right, okay.
Right.
Are they even coming?
I have no idea. Yep.
No, I get the other sidey.
Gonna jump for sure. No worries, McKinson. No worries, dude. That's
Dead?
one definitely dead. One's definitely dead.
They're not as
Oh wait, that got all.
they're not as intelligent
Oh,
as the
shit, right there.
they're not as intelligent as the Resident Evil 2 ones.
No, definitely not.
Then again,
Not even rock. Got a
I
face.
suppose this came out before remake.
Well, yeah, true, yeah.
It's dead now.
My god, I took a lot of bullets. Right, I think we're good.
Yeah, it's
Sweet. Okay.
We almost made that sneaking, you know.
Ah, we did. You got very far along, I have to say.
But we are getting that jewel. We are getting them jewels for it, like, and they seem quite good. The Lionheart
The
ones.
what? Oh, the Joes. Yeah.
Maybe we should take Flamash's advice.
Want to sneak past him? No, he's his killer, I think.
No, kill them all.
Maybe you should have. We've disturbed him from his slumber there.
You heard his name, and he's all, I was right!
Absolutely eating our ammo though. That's only
They
the
are,
inside.
eh?
I have barely any bolts left.
But man, if them jewels are anyway half decent, like, we'll be making them tidy wee sum off them. Shit.
Yeah, shit, that's a lot of liquors.
Would you liquor these balls? Fuck, there's loads of them.
Yep, and I am quickly running out of bolts. Shit, you're nearly dead. My bolts. Far away, I got me from.
Well, that's undead.
Holy shit, right, I need bolts.
I need that health.
Lionheart,
Do you need any health?
you do need health. Not really, but you do.
Yeah, no, it's done there now. Wait.
Right, let me reload all my shit. So, I have
I
machine
have
gun bolts.
very little ammo left.
Yeah, I've basically none. I do have rifle bolts.
I'm assuming, though, the money we get from them jewels is pretty good. Although, why do they have them? Who's putting jewels in them liquors?
I know why. And they're just lying about the place. Holy
Oh,
shit.
what the fuck's that? What's exploding?
Right, there's explosive barrels. Let's use them to our advantage, like Rocket was saying.
Or, like usual, we use them to our disadvantage.
And blow ourselves up.
Yep. Gold. Do you mind if I take a handgun ammo? Oh, yeah.
Yoink.
Go work. Work away.
Sorry, I'm basically none. I have one bolt left, I think, before that.
Oh, yes, lad. What's happening?
Yeah, more zombies. We do not have the bolts for us.
How we do? Grand.
What
the fuck was that? Did you set off a flashbang? I'm
Nope.
dying.
Why are you down?
Because I was flashbanged. I was bang flashed.
Get on the cover. A backlash. Oh,
Backlash.
machine gun across the way. That's why. Shotgun shells. Nice. Right. Let's get that equipped and load it.
And then,
Get yourself in the cover.
I'm in cover.
Right. I'm coming.
If I can get that red herb now.
Yeah.
No, I don't have an herb import. No!
You need make room?
Yeah, probably.
No, I'm down too. No, we're dead.
I'm dead too.
Right, we just have to
We
go.
were not prepared.
No, we don't have the ammo. So we don't.
Get that green herb.
Get that green herb. Rod, what is the crack? Good to see you,
What's
dude.
the story? Oh, we can sell them things now.
Great.
Can't we?
Oh, aye, that's right.
5 of them.
Good thinking. Do it.
Was heckling Ian your guys' turn? We'll just ban you.
Heckle away. How's things, Rod? How's life? Right, I'm gonna take that first aid spray. I think that's a good shout. Apart from that.
Okay, mate. Machine gun. Machine gun.
But in reality, I was just chilling with some Dragon Quest Builders 1. Is that what Ian? No, Ian's playing...
He's played Final Fantasy
He has
11.
been playing... Final Fantasy 11. He's been playing Zelda in the daytime, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's like
Like every streams.
daytime. Ah.
That's been really fun to watch, actually, the Tears of Kingdom. I've been really enjoying watching it.
It is, it's a brilliant game. It's a brilliant game. There was too much of, it's not Breath of the Wild when that came out, and people were just like, I played it. It was class. I really enjoyed it.
Like, I would never recommend playing the two of them close together.
I think Tears
Because
is a
they
better
are
game.
very similar. I have only played a couple hours of Tears and then I sold my Switch. So I need to go back to it.
Right.
It's nice and chill. I can turn my brain mostly off game. See, that's perfect, man. That's exactly what you want most of the time with a game. Is just, can I relax and take it easy?
I am going to go down here and get these herbs.
Go for it. Oh, thank you.
Do you need any
I'm
healing?
going to stand and cover. No, I'm alright yet.
Oh, it's only one of them's a herb now. It's random. Fuck.
Oh, no way. Right, okay. This is not a nice chill, turn your brain off type of game, Rod.
No.
It's very action based.
There was one right beside you as well.
Oh, good spot. He's got back up. You got him. Good. Right, time to book it. Oh shit, they threw a
What he
flashbang.
dropped. Was that you threw it?
No, they threw it. Right, I am further ahead here.
I've been flashbanged. I think it's empty, done.
Shotgun shells, I need those shotgun shells. I need to clear some inventory space here. Use. We could have been doing that, but sorry, you're not close enough.
Where are you? Where are you?
Across the
Where are
ways.
you? You're
I'm
there.
across the ways. Yeah.
How do you
Need to
switch
wait
your
on a
shoulder
reload time
that you're
here.
aiming with?
I don't know.
Leo, I wasn't talking to you. She came running.
Right there. But the rifle's very good here.
I'm down again.
Die.
Go over there.
Right.
It doesn't let me
I think I
take
got him.
cover there.
Ah, right, okay, sorry.
They all
Do you
dead?
need help? For now,
Or
yeah.
for us. If I can find a green herb, I have a red one here. No, it's just more ammo.
Oh, one back here. There's one back here.
Is there? Where are you?
Yep, not even joking. Right in front of me.
Where
Back
actually are
on
you?
us.
I can't. Oh, here.
Back,
Got it.
back. There we go. Dragon Quest Builders, then. So what's different? Dragon Quest Builders versus Dragon Quest. So is Builders like a...
Jesus Christ.
That
What
is
the fuck was
terrible
that?
thing. A grenade was free from above and landed at your feet. Is Dragon Quest Builders kind of like Fallout Shelter? Or is it like
No.
a 3D game?
It's like Minecraft.
It's like Minecraft, that's what Rod just says there too. Right, okay. Oh, there was a herb down here too, though.
Very good. I think we probably
Right,
have
okay.
to jump down on this and work our
Let's
way
go
up.
on this conveyor belt, don't we? Bollocks.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good. We have to try and run up this.
Fucking just book it.
Nah, look at us right. Go, go, go.
Go, 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 go all the way.
There we go. We got it. Wait, there's somebody up here chucking grenades. I can absolutely.
Alright, got him. Who's dead?
Nice.
Dragon Quest Builders is actually really good. It's a very good game. There's a herb up there as
I
well.
enjoy. I need handgun ammo, but I can't pick it up.
Right. We'll take a look about. Oh, there's a guy up there. We'll take a look about and see if... Oh, Jesus, he just exploded. We'll see if we can find... guys before we step onto this.
Aye, sounds good. Aye.
There was one of them ran across the
A
top.
lot better. Right. Maybe a note here for the rifle. The rifle will help here. It shares common lore with the first Dragon Quest game. Right. And Dragon Quest was Akira Toriyama as well, wasn't it? Dragon Ball's creator.
Right, we might be better just running them.
Right, okay.
We can't
Worries
even
me.
tick.
Running in the middle is the play. Oh shit, there's people on the conveyor belt. That's not good. Oh, I just got blown up. That's definitely not good.
You dead?
No, no. Hurt them?
At least we can get down with it. Which is
Aye.
nice.
Catch 22. Right.
I'd say run for it just. Shit. We'll take care of these guys before we do anything. Did you pull that lever, eh? There we go. There we go. We're sucking diesel now. What's down here? I'm hoping there's health in here for you. Green herb. Go this way. Go this way. Where you going? You. Where you going? Can you hear me? Why can't I hear you? Where are you? Can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Because my worried. Bum, 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 bum. Can you hear me? Can't hear anything through Discord. Shit. Shit. I can't hear you either. We got some Discord shenanigans. Or Delgado, go through to the stream. Discord Elgato, go through to the stream. Discord's away down. Let's connect that. We'll try it again. Hey, Minnie.
But daddy is a state of mind, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I'm your daddy.
Exactly. What is going on? Where are you? Well, I wasn't talking to you. Start a voice call. There we go. We get stuck back on it now. Give Leyoric some Brondo. Discord dead for you guys too. Have an idea? Discord's fucked. Leo, go away, darling. Stop looking at me. Don't you look at me with those eyes. And I will use this one. Boom, boom. Oh, it's back. Back. Discord. Can get to fuck. Can get to fuck. 'Cause it's broke. Ba 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 bum 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 ba bum ba ba bum. Princess Zelda. Your call's coming through to my phone. No good. Ooh, that's weird. My desktop ain't loading. Damn. Yeah. Bum bum ba da bum ba da bum ba da bum. Ba-dum ba-bum, ba-dum ba-bum, ba-dum ba-bum, ba-bum ba-da-bum, 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 bum. Ba-da-ba-da-bum, ba-da-ba-da-bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can. I have to just make sure it's coming through my chat as well with the stream together one. Change properties. Turn it up. I will try talking. Talking with my words. Come through system audio. I don't think you're coming through mine at all. Give me a second. Hook cam. Control audio via OBS. Hook cam. There we go. That is an odd one. Try talking now. Nope, I'm not hearing you. Well, that ain't working. Right, I need to figure out how to get you working now on OBS. Bup, 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 bup. Mr. Louderman. Shabba. Yeah, that's true. Gonna bring you through Chrome, and that should work. Go on chat for me.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, that should come through now. Sweet beans.
The arc is low and I'm up. Legolas, that's as high as I can get him.
Yeah, I don't
Because
do them drugs, so you can't get me higher.
so we use Discord for the voice part of this Legolas, and Discord has went down. Although mine is now open on desktop, Lyric. Let's sack the stream together.
Yep, let's go.
And do that again. Hold on, I'll ring you on Discord.
Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Hello.
There we go. He's back. There we are. Nice. Right, we'll
Sucking.
snooze them.
We're
back.
sucking diesel now, lad. And sucking
See,
diesel, hey.
wind us up and no shenanigans like, and Discord went down. So I think everyone did that. You know, Discord have issues. Never. It is very rare that Discord have issues.
But it was the game the last couple of streams. The game would just get to the stage where it just wouldn't link anymore.
It's still loading for you. I quit in Task Manager, Sierra, if that helps. Like, there was like multiple processes running, even though there wasn't. It said there was.
Yeah.
So that seems to have done the trick.
Right, let's see if we can find health and ammo and all the stuff.
To be
All
fair, safe
that.
mode did.
What?
I tried even forcing Discord to open in a safe mode, but it didn't work either.
The mode in which it opened was not safe. Like, there's a
Exactly.
lever, but there's also steps up
can't
here
pull
that I
that.
want to go.
Hold on. We can jump on this conveyor belt. Is there loot or anything down here?
There's,
We do that.
There's an arrow over here.
The yellow arrow? Yeah, it's no doubt
There's
where we have to
there's
go.
a whole section over here, man. There's squelchy stuff too.
Right, I'm coming. I'm coming.
Did you pull the lever?
No. Didn't think we had to. It's behind us.
What? Well, what's the lever for?
I don't know. Bolt, see? Lork needs better defensive spells, we think. Never goes down when Hooke is chatting.
You have to buy me dinner first.
Has a
What'd that
certain
say?
someone said a certain line yet? I don't think so.
Ben Star.
Discord troubleshooting mode should be called recourse. That's funny. That's good. Well,
That you know what? You know what?
You're not
I'm
wrong,
actually
it's
going to say it.
squidgy stuff.
I'm actually going to say it.
Wow.
That was a disappointing
Wow.
part of the last week's game announcements. Man, the squelchy stuff was above you. Ben Star coming out and talking about Fortnite.
Oh man, what a waste.
It was.
What a waste.
And you know what? Love the man. I'm not going to play Fortnite.
Nope.
I'll play it for Optimus
Don't get me
Prime
wrong,
or
I
something.
played it
but
in the back and in the past for like for Master Chief and stuff.
Yeah.
But like
From the looks of it.
that's because of my Halo shell. McKen's welcome back. Discord died and we had to get it back up again. So we lost voice chat for a wee bit there, McKen's, but that was about it.
Oh, if there's a Ben Star skin, I might go for it, you know.
See, there probably will be now if like they're making that effort of putting them in the game. Or doing an event
say
with them
so.
in the game, I should say. Gold. Right. There was also 2 levers over there as well.
Yeah,
So
there's
I'm
one
assuming
here
we
too.
go pull them. Yeah.
Yeah, probably
That's the ones I'm on
simultaneous.
about now. Right. Go.
Oh, so that powers that.
Right. Right. Which
Fair
also
point.
spawns enemies, no doubt. Yep.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Of course.
Oh, it's them squelchy things. You know, I might just run past. Oh, no, they're going to eat me if I try.
Oh, this is like Half-Life.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, for
Can I run
science, you
past?
should try and run past. Oh, you're alright. I'm going to hug the boxes
Ah,
and
fuck
stuff. Should be fine.
Oh, shit, spiders. He got his
That's a
armpit
big
juice
spider.
on me.
That's a cockroach.
I'm kind of
something.
hallucinating a wee bit.
How's that thing still alive?
Can you melee it? No. Oh, shit.
Nope. I'm going to run because I'm going to die.
Yeah, I think we should run. Run, 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 run.
And I'm out of bolts.
You behind me?
It is fast behind me. Yep, I'm behind you.
Run, 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 run. This is like, you know when you go to the airport and you have to go around the wee thing?
Right, we need to
I
try
don't
and
know
get
if
it
you
to
can
go
get
under
across there.
fire. That's what we need to do.
There's zombies here.
Oh shit. So there is. That bites me, I'm dead. Literally because I have like 1 HP. Ah, never mind, the bug's gonna get me. Oh, fuck off, zombie. Jesus. A mod, could a mod snooze the ads for me? Please and thank you.
He's still after you. I'm picking up necklaces.
I'm dead. I don't think we can kill this thing, it has to go in the fire.
Yeah, I can so. They keep grabbing me. I know I'm pretty, but
man.
it's a joke. Right. How are we going to get this thing in the fire? Maybe we have to stun it.
Absolutely shoot it like this and just keep...
Oh, there we go.
Never mind, I think it's dead. Volley, what is happening? You
Volley,
handsome
what's a
devil?
story?
Welcome
I'm just running out of time with
Right.
the dad technique on my son.
Get up this
Shit, these things are still
Right.
alive or dead.
Shit. Sorry.
Right, where are we going?
I think we need to run up this way because I'm stuck on this
Yeah.
conveyor belt with my low health.
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah. We had to go
And
across
then
here.
through the other side, you're right.
I'm making no progress.
Uh,
Oh, seriously, box?
Shit.
For fuck's sake.
Run! There we go.
Oh, I just made it.
Just kind of blast.
Almost.
What do I say? So I feel like I'm running out of time with the dad technique of my son. When you don't actually listen to what they're saying and they just kind of repeat back the last few words, just say, "Well, what do you think?" And look at them as if
my son.
just be like, "What do you think?" And then
I
they'll
feel
answer
your
it
pain, really.
themselves.
I like no bullshit. I'm not even giving them grief. I'm stalling here because my ads are running there. I often look at Leyoric parents very well. He won't admit that himself, but he does. Just checking in to say hi to my favourite Irish streamers, then I'm heading straight back to bed. Molly, you absolute legend, thank you for coming on. Literally all Metal Gear Solid Snake ever does, it's a professional counseling technique. You'll be fine. See, you just tell your kids to press the action button. That's, oh, you healed me? You legend, thank you.
Snake is quite
I remember
possibly
how
the
to
worst
delay them, you're all
operative.
good. Legolas.
The worst
Oh,
operative to
fine.
ever do anything.
You're all good, Legolas. You can do, if you're on desktop, you get to be prompted above chat to snooze, but I think you can do /snooze as well in chat, can't you? I think. For a mod.
Do you know have it in your stream deck?
No, I don't. I was asking a mod to snooze the ads. No, I don't have it on my stream deck to snooze the ads. I must do it.
It's in there in StreamerBot, so just create a StreamerBot action for it and then just link it to your stream deck then.
Yeah, I must do that actually. Right, what else did I miss? Mine just slapped me on the chest for daddy, louder and louder each time. No, what age are your kids? You're grand, Legolas, don't be silly. By the time I heard you say it wouldn't let me snooze, we ran out of little time. No worries, folks, you're grand. You're grand. I seen them lit, to be fair, as well. Right. We're making good progress here. Considering there's only 6 chapters in the game.
This turned off that bullshit.
Very good.
Sweet.
Lazy, what's happening? Shite mods over here. No.
Didn't even
Can't
get the overlay.
stuff these days.
No worries, Annihilator. You're all good. Shame mods. Lazy, welcome in, you absolute right. What is the crack?
Now, anyone that doesn't know
Snake,
Lazy,
no gears in the
Lazy's the man from Larn. And
yes,
definitely give him a follow. Good lad.
Me, Mr. Hooke, and the kiddo are going to Island McGee, which is near Larn, so we might even see Lazy out and about, in his homeland. Never know. Huh, the Metal Gears and the hangers through that door.
Do you know that's why he's called Lazy Books as well? Because Lazy and Larn start with the same letter. Okay, now don't be lying and getting Reddy's hopes up.
How about make sure to snooze the first 3 ads on Sunday? Thank you. I am very well, and I think Leyoric is very well too. Well, his day is obviously much better now that he's streaming with me. Like,
well, that is true. That is true. That you're right. You're right in what you're saying there. I'm not going to disagree.
I'm right.
I heard he roams in the nude. It is the Larn way. Yes, it is. The Larnites do not wear clothes. They feel it slows them down from their spelunking and their what's the word? Frolicking. They like to frolic. What are you doing?
I shot that on purpose because I want to pick up this ammo on the ground. If I give you machine, right, I'm gonna.
Do you want me to pick up the
give
ammo?
you machine gun ammo.
I
can pick it up and give it to me even if you want. Oh no, I don't have inventory space. Oh, thank you very much.
Here, right?
No? Oh no, it's Finner.
Do you want to give me machine gun ammo then? I'll give it out to you.
There's fine.
Lazy Strokes has become
I'll give you machine
canon.
gun ammo.
Oh yes, Lazy Strokes. Lazy Strokes.
Lazy Strokes. Is that not what I called the inflatable dinosaur? Lazy? That you were wearing one time on stream? I heard he roams around in the nude. As is the Larn way. Mrs. Hooke just brought me a wee cup of tea there. We dote. Derek, thank you for that. Much appreciated. Right. I think I'm good.
Why you shouldn't come on? I'm at the door. Come on. End up calling him Strokes. Strokes these.
Did I end up calling Strokes? I was thinking that there. That was me. That's my canon and lazy streams. I named the inflatable dinosaur.
I named these community.
You did. And
Stock
he named
homies.
mine last stream as well, the Hookers.
I named that fucking years ago and you just didn't take me on. You're
You
all this
didn't.
stupid name.
I was like, is it a bit too out there? Like, and then Lazy said it was cool, so I thought that's a good idea. Right, that
Ollie,
was me.
no problem.
Good
You
night,
have a good night,
Holy Irish Trinity. Look after yourself, dude. And thank you very
Who
much
is
for
this
taking the
jabroni?
time to come and say hello. That's Voldemort.
Turns out the dragon costume came with a crown for me to wear. Every bald person has Voldemort.
No way.
Stop it.
Shut up, Vin Diesel.
You're like a broken record, you know that? Just as single-minded as he said. You've spent so long trying to...
Give her beans. Give her beans, Taka.
Give her the beans, Taka. I can hear an later saying that, man. Love how I just got a Northern Irish circle going on here with naming stuff for each other. Hey.
Oh no.
At least it's not Bodie McBoatface and that shit. You know?
British community should be called British Rides.
Fucking love that bit. What
Take
bit?
it.
And you're planning on selling it to terrorists.
Good guess, but no.
No.
Does resemble the BOW based on the progenitor virus. I have no intention of selling it to terrorists.
Oh, they give her the beans, Taka.
What? Japan there? Give her beans, Taka.
Jesus. Is this like
He's
a...
better. He's better now. It's alright.
It's a philosopher's stone, one that
Is this like a Titan? Like a variant? What do you call them?
Tyrant?
Tyrant. Thank you.
Evolution.
I think it's different. I think it's Ouroboros.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if they were just calling it a different name.
Everyone will.
Because the T virus, the G virus, and then the mold are all different. It's just a game.
Oh, okay.
Looks like he wasn't worthy. Only the chosen ones are fit for the coming new world.
Wait, so that guy's just going to die?
Oh, he is now, once we get done with him.
Yes. Holy shit.
And,
Nice.
I
He
think
has
there's
orange
the,
glowy spots for us to shoot.
I think there's the Veronica virus as well.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well done. I need to push over these gas tanks. I want to push over these gas tanks and get them with that. Come on, lad. I'm assuming there's more of them if they get... there's more of them.
Right, okay. Sweet.
We can lure him over. We can lure him. Call me Lure Croft. Doomsman. Doomsman. That's all it is. It's all Dooms.
Doomsman.
Right, whatever way he comes around, we go the opposite way.
Yep. Round the outside. Doo, doo, doo. Whoa. Okay. Stretch Armstronger. Shoot it.
Halo Reach.
What the?
Probably another one. This other side there is. There is.
Uh-huh. Oh, a flamethrower?
Ouroboros creates such ugly looking feckers. At least the T Veronica and G made zombies cool. Yeah, it did, yeah.
Right.
Dead by Daylight weapon. See, I know now. I know now.
Oh, oh shit, they got me. It was right behind me.
Where are you? You alright? You have a flamethrower?
I do.
Oh, man.
Oh shit.
He lets out his wee tiny wee man.
Yeah, it keeps spawning behind me. Which doesn't help. Go and shoot these wee men at me.
Come over here so we can lure him. We can lure him.
Never mind, they went away. I do need help, but I think I'll be alright.
Lara Croft?
Go for it. Nice. Well, that didn't slow him down that much that time.
Right, that. Do you need first aid?
I do.
Come on over to me. Over to me.
No.
Where you in? Oh, sorry. Gotcha. You ever been stuck up?
Ah, pick.
AJ, what's happening? What's the story? You can refill. That's refill flamethrower, right? We don't need a refill flamethrower, do we?
Wait, you can refill them? Sweet. AJ, welcome on, the absolute legend. Good to see you, dude. Right, it's not right beside me again this time, is it? No.
No, he's not. I got him with an incendiary grenade.
Oh, right, I have to wait for it to refill. Okay. Doesn't even need a refill.
He's right behind you. He's right behind you, man.
Yep, I'm sprinting. Fuck out of here.
Right, where is he? I'll get him. Hang on.
What have you got? Oh, watch yourself. It's under the ground there.
Love streaming this with Josh ages ago.
Oh.
To be honest, this game's great. It's a lot of fun. Is to die, reload, drop your FPS or something lower. You'll never kill this boss.
Watch yourself. Watch yourself.
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm grand. This flamethrower's reloaded. Flamethrower.
No way. Are we FPS locked? Is that a thing?
No, I don't think so.
Come over to me a second. He stay still. Hook 1 second and runs away. Hello, Hook, you gorgeous exclusive man. AJ, I knew I liked you. Flattery will get you far in this.
For some reason, this boss fight with high FPS is impossible to kill. Right? Okay.
Oh, I don't even know what I'm running the game at, to tell you the truth. Well, maybe that's the case. Funny enough, I remember you mentioned something about this in the past, Flemish. I'm not even joking. 6 is wank, man. Never had that issue. Right, okay. Maybe it takes longer then, it's like a tick rate thing or something.
Do you want to give him a flamethrower?
I knew he was going to do that.
Oh, he's going to appear right behind me, in front of us.
Yep.
There's very little of them left now, to be fair.
Yeah.
Flame boy.
Right, I'm guessing we want to stealth in vents in the middle. It's a recipe for disaster. Where'd it go? Oh, it's in the bottom corner there.
Ooh, machine gun ammo. Ooh, piece of candy.
Nice.
Ooh, piece of candy.
Exactly what hitting him with classic RPG Final Fantasy V help. Right, he's coming around. He's going after you, not me.
Is he?
Ooh. A weak point there, I think. Like a prompt. Oh shit, absolutely bopped me in the head. Right, time to retreat. Reverse. Right, he's got my scent here.
Breaks the Ouroboros boss fight. Are we running over 60 frames per second?
I don't know.
I don't think I am.
I don't
but
have,
it might
like,
depend on
review
you,
chair
maybe,
or
because you're
anything,
the... Do you want to come over to me so I can heal you?
Please. You might be right, Flemish, because like he's completely regened himself there.
But are you... It might just depend on you saying you're the host.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, she knows now. Bollocks.
I might not be right. I am right. The last time you said that, you were 100% wrong. So, how does that work?
Right, we can't pause, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
Green states ridiculous in our playthrough. We just took an RPG to him and that works. I do have one in storage, which is no good this. Oh shit. Can I help you?
I'm dead.
Yeah.
Stuck in a corner.
Shit.
I'm dead.
Knocked me over too. Right, okay. Right, well, now that you died, we can check it at least. And see. Options are RPG or drop to 30 FPS. Right, can I
You have an RPG, don't you?
Yes, I do. I do have an RPG, so we'll do that. I only have one bolt for it, mind you. What if they drop lower? Yeah, I only have one bolt for it. But we'll try it and see. That's a genuine question. Fair enough. 24 FPS like the films, you know.
I know you're being funny, but I
you're
think
being
below
funny.
30 is.
See, you're right, because a lot of old games had a tick rate tied to the FPS. So they knew the game would run at like a lock 30 FPS. So a lot of the engine mechanics...
Final Fantasy 7 OG's actually like that. There's a bit where you have to go through this sort of barrier, this sort of wand, and you can't see it if you're above 30 FPS.
That's right. That happened to me, sure. And then when they first ported MCC to the speaking,
you're getting a raid.
I just got a raid. I am getting a raid. Bollocks, I can't pause. Teddy, welcome in. Yeah, absolute legend. Teddy, you are back off the list.
Oh, what do you mean off the list? What list was he on?
He was on the list for not raiding me last time that we were co-streaming. Right, let's knock that over. Raiders, welcome in. What is happening? Thank you very much for choosing me. Sorry, I can't chinwag properly at the minute because we are in the middle of this.
I can chinwag because I love you more than he does, Teddy. You should have chose me over him because Hooke's a dick. Mange.
Dr. Masochist, welcome in. What is the correct? Teddy's making a decision into this stream of running a raid transplant. He sure feckin' is because he's an absolute legend.
Welcome in, folks.
Teddy, how's your stream? Welcome in. You're both going to make this a nightmare for me. Oh, with the raiding? Yeah.
we are. But you know what? That's not the worst grief anyone's ever got.
Oh, Dr. Masochist, thank you very much for follow.
Do you have that RPG?
Teddy, how's your stream? Eh?
You're going to shoot him with that RPG?
Oh, fuck, that's right, I forgot about that. Right, I got it.
There we go, that worked.
Okay, that worked.
Who's going to let the internet... Who's going to get the internet raid, though? To be fair, it probably might not even be either one of us, because Ian does raid us quite a bit. And
Ian,
then
is Ian still live?
Ian's normally a bit later than us as well, so there's a potential we could be raiding him.
Aye. Right, let me chat for a wee minute now, before we continue. End of chapter 5.2. There's only like 6.1 or 6.2. So we have like 4 bits to go.
You 4 bits to go?
Stream is great, thank you very much. Great Final Fantasy, lovely raid from lovely people, and static. We're also a good laugh.
Even though we give you grief, thank you for coming on, and thanks for the tips as well.
Yeah, honestly, thank you very much. I did give you like a wee there for that. Thank you, Flemish. That was very helpful. Much appreciated. Did you not have another RPG? I forgot about it. I brought it on after you tell me to do it. Get fucked.
Have you heard of the critically acclaimed
much love. Unlike
MMORPG
Leyoric here,
Final
who's always
Fantasy
mean to you,
XIV? With an expanded free trial, which you can play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavens Ward, Stormblood and Shadowbringers expansions up to level 80 for free with no restrictions
I don't have a
on
fancy like
playtime.
Hall of Fame like Leyoric has for raids, you know, because I wouldn't want to copy his idea. But still, I appreciate it. You know what I did do at the start? See, when I first started streaming, like the first couple of months, I had an Excel and I kept track of everything.
I still have that. I have that for...
You do?
Yeah, I have that for everything. I've done that since last
year. It's just your average your streams over time. Teddy, thank you for the check-in as well. And Dr. Masochist, thank you very much for coming in and following too. Much appreciated. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, party level 105. Stack party. We have samurais, dragoons, mages. We have everything tonight. Thank you for sharing it. Not a problem, Teddy. Anyone in my chat that's not following Teddy, I know you all probably are, but if you're not, follow Teddy. He plays a lot of Final Fantasy 16.
Please
and
do.
he hasn't done it in a while, but he does an amazing Saturday morning or Sunday morning SMTV live or live and kicking stream. Which is really good.
Great time. Great time. I think that's usually just time permitting. Really. But Teddy if he gets to do it or not.
Are we continuing?
Aye? Do you want to give it another go? Or do you want to continue, I mean?
Aye.
Sorry, I was just doing shit. That's all.
Doing shit. Shit and doing. I'm working for
I think Saturday we maybe hit Toonami. Ooh. Or not, I'm not sure that.
What's all this nonsense about evolution and being worthy?
Right, let's loot before we go anywhere. Can I take this flamethrower again? No. She just said philosopher's stone.
Did you left the flamethrower, right?
No.
We don't have access to it now.
No, raging.
And all of it's gone too.
Oh, I can sit in the chair.
Can you actually?
What's this backfire? Yeah. Don't want to know what this was used for, he said. But Ted, thank you again, dude. Thank you. That honestly, I appreciate it every single time that you read on. I know we've made like a wee running joke about it. Commode. But I do appreciate it. Right, what's out here? Is this how we come in? Oh no, this is where we go. I think. Leyoric.
That way? Right, okay. Because the other door doesn't open.
Yeah, there's a ladder here.
Well, it's a step in the right direction. We're going up in the world.
So there's a... yeah, it's this way. Right. What's down that way you're going now?
There's a wee control room. With a safe.
Some loot. Hold on, shotgun shells. Give me them shotgun shells. Hold on. I have shotgun shells. Let me reload my shotgun. That'll help. Oh, don't. Fuck.
Leyoric made some corker jokes tonight that you'd be proud.
You made some corker jokes, Teddy. The Teddy or Leyoric would be proud of.
No, Teddy made some. One made Tank giggle. A Tank giggle so much they died. That's the worst way they did it. They took too much damage from the joke.
Bollocks. The shotgun shells are really on some. I can't do the Tetris enough to get them.
I can loft the machine gun ammo, but not the shotgun. Not shotguns.
Come
on. Now I'm going to have to watch this back, Teddy, to see what was said. You need to give us timestamps or clips. Right. Let's do it. Let's continue.
Well, that's not good. This door's lying open.
Yeah. Still don't like that you have to hold down left stick to sprint. So annoying.
I think we probably have one more stream of this game, you know?
Aye, 100% one more stream now at this stage. Yep.
But you know what we should do? Do the ChatGPT thing where it tells us how much we've left for the next stream, and if it's very short, have Resi 6 ready.
That's a good idea. 100%. I did the GPT thing at the start, and it said we were like 70% through the game before tonight, so we're definitely...
It's throwing the shotgun shells at us, and we can't even lock them.
Right, I need to get these. That's not fair. Let's see, what can I do? I could discard my rifle ammo, and I just pick up more as I go. So we'll do that.
Do you want to give me the rifle ammo?
I just discarded it, sorry. Oops.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
I don't know you had a rifle. My bad. Oops. See, I'm full of good ideas, Teddy. All good ideas.
What, like discarding your ammo?
Yeah, exactly. No, he means a bit. Told him to clip that.
Ah, right, okay.
So it's a good idea, is it? I know.
More handgun ammo up here.
He's trying to sabotage. I'll take that, thank you.
What's going on here? More shooting, man.
Yeah. And more ball sacks on the ceiling over there as well. Leaking ball sacks. You are both. That's why zero cash exists. Yes. Yes. We don't have a video this week. I don't have anything recorded as of yet for next week, so I need to get something recorded.
To be fair, it should be me getting on the ball for that one. I'm more just... do you know what I think our problem is? We kind of blew our wad very early. We got very excited and did all the video ideas we had. And now I'm kind of like, what do I do now?
Now there's researching. I've had a video idea for a long time that I've been telling you about, which is like a longer video to make, and it's like a lot of effort. Yeah. I really should just do it. But like what keeps happening is I'm like, no, but I want to keep up the cadence of like how often videos are coming out. So I'm making smaller scale videos, which are fine as well, as long as they're good value, as long as it's not just shite. You know what I mean? Electric rounds. Oh. Right, hold on. I wonder if I can get them. Yeah, I've got my shotgun, see.
Oh, someone's at the door.
Didn't even knock.
Yeah, I could see his gun poking through the fucking thing.
Didn't even knock. Little shit. Shotgun shells. Oh, do me dirty here again. Right, I can't pick them up. You can take them. Go, go, go.
I don't think I can pick them up either. Can the Orc do a hairstylist video? Yes.
Oh, thick as one of them things.
I'm actually doing a walk for charity next week.
Are you? Where?
Yeah, it's what do you call it? St. Colm's Park. Took a thing for cancer.
Oh, nice one,
man. They just messaged me about it the other day, and I was like, yes, I can, man. Sweet.
Oh, shit. I think I'm dead here. Yeah, fall on dead. That does one-shot me.
What you've learned. What you set up.
What you
for co-op?
This is how you set up your setup in one video for new streamers. I take my royalties and cheese. We thought about stuff like that, you know. Like, I know you did one for Meld, didn't you? Like, I did one for StreamerBot, but like, actually getting someone set up from, creating an account the whole way through, it would be a long video.
Well, we've done that. We've gone through how to get your stream key, how to set yourself up with your stream, and then a full OBS.
We should put it on a playlist.
Yeah.
We should make a separate playlist of like how to get started. Good idea, Steam Train. I have a video I'd like you to do, please. Seriously. Is there anything you could make a video to explain what you've learned or good setup tweaks for collab streams? Oh, right. So you want us to do a video on like co-streaming?
Well, that's what I was saying on what we did now, how to set this up.
Oh, right. I was on about Steam Train's message there as well. Like he's on about just how to stream in general. Like from scratch. That's a good idea, Teddy. I like that. Funny enough, Teddy, I have a redeem. Could you do me a favor and redeem it and put that in there? It's a video idea. I think they work or something similar. So either or. But it'll basically take a note. The way I have my StreamerBot set is whenever my StreamerBot opens on my PC, it opens that file for me on launch, so I can be reminded of what the video ideas were. But I like that idea. Because we, for our co-streaming, like we did the cool things like tonight, Teddy, you might have missed it because you were live, but like Leoric's Be Right Back game is on my stream through the shared chat as well, which is pretty cool. We have like the wee ready up thing, the wee command. That's a shared command to let each other know that we're ready. We're doing the video through Stream Together, but we're doing the audio through Discord as well. It's the tech question one, yeah.
What I think would be quite good as well, we did like I know we were talking about doing it originally on the Zero Cash Twitch, but maybe not so much. We could actually just do one on our own streams for setup and tech. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? Do what on our own streams? Sorry.
Just how you were going through setting up OBS or something, or just do one live where people can ask questions.
Right, I get you. Like just a pure techie stream. Right.
Yeah.
I get you.
So you could have it like set up in your laptop or something.
You would be of more use to me if I skinned you and turned your skin into a lampshade.
You know what I could actually do?
Or fashioned you into a piece of
capture my
luggage.
laptop through OBS.
I can even add you to my collection.
And then set up everything on the laptop.
Are you saying that you have a collection of skin
Interesting.
luggage?
Of course I'm not.
Because I've done techie streams in the past for like a wee bit of streamer about coding mine, and then I did the soldering and all that jazz. So like I've done nerdy shit in the past. And I know it's niche. But all of our streamer friends, like if we sort of talk about it ahead of time before we do it, so people know we're going to do it.
I'm getting a raid.
Oh, okay.
Riku, thank you very much for raid done. How was the rest of Kingdom Hearts? What is the story? What is the crack? If you don't know my buddy Hooke, he is over there. We're co-streaming some Resident Evil 5 tonight. We're making good progress. Just waiting for this game to glitch on us now because it's about the time where it does it.
Thank you, Dan.
I know in my chat doesn't know Riku plays games. He's an IRL buddy of mine. Plays a lot of Kingdom Hearts. He's brand new to streaming. Recently got affiliate. But in a bit raids in. Goes to my Hall of Fame.
Lovely. For the record.
And Hooke is in here too. Look, there's his wee fish over there in the corner. There we go. Riku, this is twice this month you've raided me, you absolute legend. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for choosing me over Hooke as well, because it shows that you love me more than him. And that's the most important bit.
Teddy.
Unlike Teddy, who chose Hooke over me, will never be forgiven.
We had competition.
Great time. Lots of fun stuff. We're getting very close to the end. Nice one. You're playing Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced today as well in the Nintendo.
So it was actually. That's right.
Yep.
I'm glad I didn't pick either of you to raid. For fuck's sake, lazy. we now have a competition going. Oh, there's a fella here just making himself known. We now have a competition. It's official. On our co-streams. Oh, Teddy, thank you for the 10 bits.
Ready to go after. Nice.
Teddy, we're like Team Rocket out of Pokemon, just so you know. We're cool.
Yep. I loved Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 3 kind of drained me a wee bit.
I've not played them.
They're very good. They're very, very good. The story is bonkers. I think you would do well playing them with... Well, I haven't had any complaints. I think you would enjoy playing them with Wee Teddy because of the Disney factor of them.
Aye. That's exactly what I was thinking. I don't think I would stream it because of how long it is. Because you know how much I chinwag. So I'm usually put off. Like, there's loads of games I love to play, but I talk too much.
Never.
Oh. I have been
I know
told
what you mean. Felt fatigued. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2 was exceptionally good.
Hope you usually having a good stream. We are. We had a small blip there, Riku, where Discord went down, so our audio was down temporarily, but it only lasted like a minute.
Do you need electric rings?
I will take them. They're in that wee room, aren't they?
Yeah.
I need to... What's this? Shotgun shells. I have acid rounds. Maybe I should take electric though, because if the game's giving them to us, then we should use them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not done 3 and 4 yet, but yeah, I'm looking forward to experience it for the first time on stream. The fact that only ever haven't finished it yet is telling. It's the fatigue. Yeah, it just... It gets very grindy, I think. 3 does. Like, the enemies just become absolute meat shields, and you're just fighting them for ages.
Kingdom Hearts 2 was great fun, right? Okay. 3 was not up to snuff, felt like a slog, even though it was shorter than 1 and... Oh, so it was actually shorter, but just felt worse?
Yeah, just because the enemies took so much damage.
Right. Just pure sponge. Anti-cracks?
Yeah. I don't like it when they do things like that, just they make things longer. That's my tactic for making things longer. I'll play 4, but I don't know if I'm going to get out at launch. 2 was peak. 2 was...
that's fair enough, lady.
And my boy Squall.
I'm very much of that ilk these days, where like I don't really buy much games at launch, to be honest. And I'm also... I prefer shorter retro games. Over the
I'm going to drop this guy now.
Go for it.
Where is he? He didn't drop.
Some of the side games are excellent. Right? In Kingdom Hearts, Riku.
Your man didn't drop.
So he didn't.
Oh, there's loads of guys going first.
Okay. You looted this room, didn't you?
No, there's still ammo in there for you.
That's where the electric rounds are. Oh.
And there's handgun ammo too.
Bolts. Oh. Nice. Right, I can't pick up the electric rounds, but I shall use the acid rounds and that'll help. Like, where are you? Oh, you're just right beside me. It's that dark in that corridor. I'm worried.
Yeah, there are about 7 or 6. There was loads of the portable games. That's right.
Oh, I'm getting a raid. Lola.
Amazing.
Thank
Lola,
you very much.
What is happening?
Right,
we doing Lola too lazy.
Over here a minute. Make sure I'm safe. Lola, thank you very much for the raid.
We're not safe. We're not safe.
We're not safe.
We're not safe.
Let me get safe. Let me hide behind this panel. Like I should be safe here. Oh, we're not safe. We're very not safe. Lola, sorry, I cannot pause at the moment. Thank you so much for the raid. How was your stream? Hopefully you had a great time. And as soon as I can properly talk to you and not be rude, I will. Can I get this thing? Oh, feck.
I know.
The stream supports Team Hookers. The Hookers is catching on. I love it. I love it.
Chain of Memories, Birth by... That's right. That's all the wee ones. And the 3, 5, 8 days.
I was worried about calling it Team Hookers. Oh, acid round did its number on that thing. Good to know. Right,
there we go. He's down. He's down. Lazy made me do it. I blame whatever in the Larn Watt over there. Lola knows how it is. Lola knows.
Let me switch over properly for a wee second. Thank you so much. And welcome in. For anyone that comes in that's new here, I'm Hooke, another Irish streamer as well. if you know Lazy, or if you know me through Lazy, I'm sorry, he's from Larn. Like, what can you do? But I'm not. You know, that's nice. But you were playing Tamagotchi Life. Loving the dream. I actually don't even know what that is. But hopefully you had a great time. And what is it? Tell me more. Thank you, Lola. It is good to see you, as always. Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance are both great. Not popular opinion, but here. Hi. Lola picked a rare target. I may have put my thumb on the scale for the message. Here, I love it. It all works out to me. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Right, do I have an inventory slot? I do. Right, I'm going to pick up those logic around here.
You call me an inventory slot?
The game's froze. We're at that point.
It's at that time of night. Fuck.
We're at that point. It's usually around the 3-hour mark. Freezes.
It is. It does seem to be. It must be like a memory bleed or something.
Yeah, I think it is. Happens every time.
You know what? It's... You know what?
Will we leave it there?
It's 11 o'clock. So yeah, I think we should, because it tends to be the indicator of how we finish up stream. Hopefully, if we finish up the next one...
It's been the same every time.
I know. It's like it knows. It knows.
Although, as you were saying, we'll finish this next stream and probably start Resi 6 as well.
Yeah.
Which would be nice too.
I agree.
Well, Lazy, thank you very much for guiding the raid as well. I do appreciate it. I really do. And like, you've just finished the stream as well, Lola, so like, no, by all means, if you need to up and get some food or whatever, we'll chinwag for a wee minute and I'll probably raid out as well. Ourselves.
We'll raid out.
Stuff
thank you folks for coming on as well. That was an absolute brilliant stream. Enjoyed the crack, enjoyed the banter. Mike does audios live.
Ooh.
He's playing Pokemon.
Co-raid Mike.
That could be done. Mike. Yeah, for a bit of crack.
Aye.
What I'm going to do now, though, is I am going to bring up my raid message. I'm also going to bring up whether the chat actually defeated the boss the night or not. So what I'm going to do is I didn't get Assassin to turn on the arc against me. Lazy. I know, crack. So Mike Does Audio is a wonderful friend of ours. He speedruns Final Fantasy 8. He's second in the world for Final Fantasy 8, and he's third in the long form of it. He's now playing Pokemon. That's my raid message. Lovely fella. I'm going to pop mine in. We're going to see if they beat the boss. And I'm going to start this raid off. And I'll be back tomorrow night for Resident Evil 2 speedrun.
Folks, thank you so much for everything tonight. I really, really do appreciate it. You're a wild sound. Thank you kindly. It has never lost on me.
Hook, I'll chat to you later and have a good night.
Right. 3, 2, 1.
Bye.
Bye.